ask me why no. I saw because every time I cheat, they're not working.
Huh?
I don't cheat lah.
Huh?
You're
Yes. Okay.
All right, I think we're ready.
I had half of them last night, and there's the other half.
Okay. All right, Robotech Story says we're live. So, all right, guys and girls, welcome to all the people in the room with me, to those watching on the stream over at Robotech Stories, or if you're watching it on YouTube afterwards. My name is John. Some people call me JT, and we are here for a very special Robotech event. The last stop in our Robo Turns 4.0 No Travel Required Baby anniversary tour. For the past year, we've been celebrating 40 years of Robotech, the animated series, the comics, the novels, the Sentinels, the RPGs, and everything in between. Once again, my name is John. I'm the administrator over at the Robotech pages, Robotech Novels Universe, and Robotech Stories, also administrator of Robotech The Legacy, exclusive home of the Crazy 8 Squadron. And tonight, we're gathered here today to talk about a very important subject within the Robotech fandom, and it's something that has been, shall we say, on the shelf for almost 20 years. Robotech has been in many mediums. It has been obviously the televised animated series. It has been in the form of comics. It has been in the form of Robotech novels, which for me is my Robotech story. But the one thing that's left for Robotech to conquer is the big screen. And that is the topic of our Robotech discussion. And let me just start sharing this here. Let me know if you could see this, guys. Can you see the welcome screen?
Yeah, I think so.
I
Yeah.
can see it.
Yes.
All right. So, Robotech in Hollywood, which way to go? And we know next to nothing about what's going on with the Robotech movie. And I created this event so that you, the fans, you, my fellow Robotech fans, can have your say in this roundtable discussion. And how we're going to do it. I'll explain in just a moment. Let me get the technicalities out of the way. This is a fan-produced presentation. It's a non-commercial tribute to the Robotech franchise and its creative legacy. Robotech and all related trademarks, characters, artwork, and music are the property of Harmony Gold USA. All music, images, and video clips used herein are for non-profit, educational, and entertainment purposes only, under the fair use doctrine of Section 107 of the U.S. Copyright Act. No infringement is intended. This event exists solely to honor and celebrate Robotech, its fandom, and its over 40 years of storytelling. Okay, so let me establish some quick roundtable rules. How we're going to do it, it's going to consist of a series of questions regarding the possibility of a Robotech movie. I'll go around the room as I see them here on Zoom on my screen and for your answers to the questions. I'm going to give a 2-minute time limit because I have quite a few questions and I want to get to all of them. So we'll have a 2-minute time limit, which in the streaming world is kind of like a lifetime. So I think it's ample time to put in your answer. I'll let you finish your thought if you get cut off by the timer. I've got a timer right here next to me. If I hope that there's time at the end of the discussion, because I want to give you guys what's called 60 seconds of chaos, where you will get to give your thoughts on the current status of the Robotech franchise. Also, this is not a Harmony Gold bashing event. I know Harmony Gold bad. I've been there. I've done that. I've been banned from the forums of Robotech.com many times. You know, that doing that just takes away from the point of this discussion. Also, I want to make clear, this is a Robotech event, so it may be what you want, but it's not for here. And I don't want to hear about DYRL, Plus, Lovers Again, Delta, etc. This is a Robotech event, not a Macross event. Let's respect others' answers and express your passion by having fun. And for me, I've used it. You guys know, who follow me on Robotech Novels Universe and Robotech Stories, I like to use the phrase believe in the possibilities. So let's put our hats on, our creative hats on. What, with these questions that I'm going to give you, remember, you're not just speaking for yourself, but you're also speaking for the fandom and what you want to see. Because I don't know about you, but I do want a Robotech movie, but obviously one that honors the legacy of what we've loved for the last 40 years. So, okay, with that in mind, I'll let you know what's going on with the movie, what we know. 2007, upon the release of Robotech The Shadow Chronicles, Warner Brothers acquires the film rights with Tobey Maguire as executive producer. Now, a lot of news over 8 years, which really led to nothing. And then in 2015, Sony Pictures takes over the rights of the movie. You had directors such as James Wan and Andrew Muschietti that were pegged as directors, both of which have moved on from the project. And then I believe it was either 2020 or 2022, I forget. But the current director, Rice Thomas of the Marvel series Hawkeye, was tagged as the Robotech movie's director. Oh, April 2022. I had it right there. So since then, there has been no news, anything significant. But a couple of years ago, it was revealed the Cole Price concept art. Now, an artist by the name of Cole Price, that was based out of the UK. He has on his art website that he was asked to do conceptual art for the Robotech movie. And this is just 4 of the art pieces that he has. So as you can see, you got SDF-1, you have a new, the Veritech fighter upgraded, and some sort of, I'm going to say, updated battle pod. So for those of you that follow Robotech Novels Universe and Robotech Stories, I will put up all the artwork, of course, giving credit to Cole Price, this coming week, so you guys can see what kind of concepts they came up with for the movie. Now, other than this, past that, nothing. We've heard nothing from Sony. We've heard nothing from Harmony Gold. Only that they can't talk about it. So with that in mind, okay, and I'm going to stop here with the what's this called? Stop sharing. Okay. Want to make sure everybody all right, so I want to make sure there's nobody in the waiting room. So No, I think we're good. All right. So with that in mind, I'm going to go around the room, and the first obvious question. You have the advances in technology for a live action movie. So in terms of graphic wise, you got stuff out there that's pretty impressive, and that could really be mixed in terms of a live flesh and blood type of feature. But there's also been advances in the animation, in the creation of animation. You have so many things that have been put out there that really can blow your mind. So, should Robotech stay with its roots of animation, or should it definitely go to the live action realm? So, I'm going to start with Mr. Brian Denmead. So,
Appreciate it.
go at it. And
So
here we
I,
go.
I I've debated it. I really have live versus animation, and they keep coming up with the same answer, even with all the advances that are out there for live action. Robotech's three sagas, and each saga is easily more than one movie, just because of all the story that's in this. So unless they're gonna really scale things down and limit mech battles and stuff of that nature, I don't think a live movie, budget wise, would be able to meet expectations of a Robotech story. Um, I think animation, and I keep thinking about the anyone who's ever seen the Final Fantasy animated movie, like something like that would be phenomenal for a Robotech animation. Story wise, I just think that they can do more visually with the animated medium than with the live medium, especially with there's time constraints. It may cost just as much either way, though. To be honest, I don't know, but my assumption is animation will give more flexibility for the portrayal of the character growth and the storyline and the robot technology that we want to see. Keeping it short without getting into sidetracking into other thoughts on that. I'm just trying to keep straight to that question. Animation, the movie, real world. CGI, just hands down in my mind wins. I'll leave it at that.
All right.
I'll save the
All
rest for
right,
the other
Mr. Ian
questions.
Ian Smith, you are up.
Okay, well, to kind of take the opposite tack, I mean, whenever I have seen popular cartoon shows go Hollywood and get that Hollywood treatment, the default has always been to live action, and I can kind of understand why they want to do that, because you kind of want to have a budget, you have a big movie, you want to show it off, you want stars. Uh, and we've seen that happen with Transformers, we've seen that happen with GI Joe. We're going to get a new He-Man movie coming out that actually looks pretty good to me, in my opinion. I don't see any reason why you couldn't do that with Robotech. And as long as they don't I was talking to my girlfriend earlier today. I was like about it, and it was like, as long as they don't take the Bayformer route with the Veritex and make them look clunky and ugly and stuff like that, I think we'll be okay. I also would like to see who they would cast as who they would get as actors to cast in these parts. I've always long said that I think, like, if she's looking for something to do post Stranger Things, I think Millie Bobby Brown would make a hell of a Lisa Hayes. Don't hate me, I think she would. But yeah, if she's looking for that career boost or whatever, that would be great if she could attach herself to another big franchise. Because that's the thing, because Sony really needs a big franchise. They've tried a few things, that haven't stick. They don't really have full custody of Spider-Man anymore. They kind of have had modest success with Ghostbusters, but it hasn't quite taken off the way they'd like. I think that they would really like to have Robotech and make that a thing and make it happen. So yeah, I think that maybe live action probably would be the more the probably be the way to go on that one if they want to do that and make it a big franchise.
All right. Okay, next up, Mr. Bill Spangler.
Okay, hi. Yeah, I lean towards live action myself too. I'd like to see the actual actors who would be cast for the roles, and but I think the dividing line between live action and animation is really thin anymore. Well, I think we're going to see most of the, if we ever see a movie, most of the Vertex were going to be CGI anyway. Although there's one recent animated film that would be a good model if we went animation. One of the recent Gundams. I can't quite remember the title offhand. The Price of Vengeance, or the. I'm drawing a blank.
Requiem for Vengeance,
Requiem.
Mr. Spengler.
What's that? Well,
Sam,
anyway,
could you
that's what
repeat
it is.
that?
Yeah, Requiem for Vengeance.
That's
It's
it.
on Netflix.
That's it. That would be a good model if you were going to go the animated route.
All right. Awesome. And again, Bill, I've known you for over 10 years. Thank you for being, you and Jim, for being part of this journey. Could not have lasted without you two. So thank you always.
Eh.
All right.
Blush, look towards the ground in embarrassment.
All right, Mr. Jason Stefani is up.
Let's see. Honestly, I would not mind seeing a live action movie. I'd like to see what Hollywood can do to it, just as long as it's good, obviously. I mean, I wouldn't mind an animated version either, but I would like to see Robotech get the live action treatment, not gonna lie. Anything else to add? If I can come up with something, I'll either PM you or message you on Facebook,
All right.
or maybe leave a comment on Facebook or YouTube. Yeah, I would like to see a live action movie. I'd like to see Hollywood. I would like to see it give the Hollywood treatment.
All right.
That's just me.
Perfect.
That's just me.
All right.
I'll even go on opening night if necessary.
All right. So,
But I wouldn't mind animated either.
all
But
right.
live action, I would like to see that.
All right. So, Miss Maura Bradley, you are up on the clock.
I would like to see live action as well. I'd be very interested to see how they do it, but I'd also want them to kind of stay as true as possible to the story and not, be creative and do something different. So, animation would be fine as well, but I got my original animation, so I'd like to see live action actually. And I'd be very curious to see who they cast. Not that I probably know anyone at this point who they cast, right?
We got some story questions coming up that you're gonna like, so I'm gonna be
Okay.
interested
Okay,
to
good.
hearing your answers.
Awesome.
Okay, Mr. Jim McCoy. And again, welcome to our community, and I hope that you are a returning attendee to our live events.
Oh, it sounds like fun. I've signed up for a bunch of them. This is the first time I actually worked at the Guns in the show, though, so I'm pretty proud of myself right now. But yeah, I think I'd prefer to see maybe an animated feature. Part of that is just me being weird. I don't really like a whole lot of like casting threads and stuff, and we go with online. It's going to be a big debate: who should play this person, who should play that person. I'm not necessarily the kind of guy who knows where everybody is in Hollywood. So even if you've got the right pick for, say, Rick Hunter, I'm not gonna probably even know who you're talking about, and so that doesn't really work for me. But also I don't know. It's kind of a nostalgia thing for me. I grew up on the cartoons, read the books. I haven't read all of the comics. I've read a few, and I just kind of like the animated look to it, just because I don't know, it's what I used to, and it's what I love.
All right, awesome. And remember, guys, there's no wrong answers here. So, all right, we have the first of the, and please excuse me if I butcher it, the Tribunella brothers. You're up, Eric.
I'm with Jim on this. I think I'd prefer the animated version, really for two reasons. I don't know how they get even the first generation. It's certainly not possible, I don't think, to do in a single movie. Even in a trilogy, I think large chunks of it have to get cut. And I hate to think of how they would butcher the story in translating it into a live action screenplay. The other reason is just cast. I'm also really nostalgic about it, and I don't know that I'd ever really be happy with the people they would pick. I think characters would be all wrong, and I'd rather just see it as an animated series that looks more like what I think Robotech looks like.
Okay. Yeah. I'm loving the mix. I gotta tell you guys, I really thought it was gonna be all live action, but I'm loving the mix of animated preferences. So thanks, Eric. All right, Chris and Henry, your thoughts on how Robotech should come out visually for a movie?
All right, Henry, you're up.
Hey.
Hey, Henry.
Hey. I think they should do a live action one, because if you cast a very popular person, that could mean more people would go to see it.
Very true.
And I think it's more risk, more reward. They spend a lot of money on the CGI to make the planes look cool and stuff, because you need to do that. But at the same time, you could get a lot of people to watch it. So I think financially it'd be a good choice to do live action.
Asteroid, go away.
So keep going, Henry. You still got time. So
so I think they should basically just stick with live action, because live action's been getting better. Has everyone here watched Troy Aries?
Tron Aries?
Oh yeah.
I haven't seen it, but I've seen the visuals. They're pretty awesome.
Yeah,
I did like it. Yeah,
it's really good. I think it would be really good to see a live action Robotech, considering what I know film can do. So I think
All right. See, Henry can put it out there in the round table as good as anybody. So and Dad, you got 30 seconds if you want to add something.
Yeah, I'll be quick. Live action, I like everybody else, I wouldn't mind either or. I don't know if anyone's aware of the social media app, Letterboxd. It's a film review app, and my bio ends with Chris is still waiting for his live action Robotech movie. So I've been waiting for that for forever. It'd be great to have it.
Awesome. Okay, we're gonna cross the seas into the kingdom of Jordan, and Geith, you're up.
Oh, sorry for the delay. Just
No worries.
fiddling with the buttons. Look, for a long time, especially when I was younger, I'd always wanted to see Robotech as a live action. But I think the older I'm getting, the more I'm convinced that I prefer it as animation. I think some of the reasons for it, like was said earlier, there's just too much story to fit into one film. If they condense it, cut it, they're going to chop off so much of the story, and then what happens? Is it going to be popular enough to continue? Is it not going to be popular enough? I think whatever budgets they'd have, they could go further with animation. Being a bit more, let's say, old school, or the risk of sounding, old now, out of I don't know, out of touch. Animation wise, I would prefer to see it as close as possible to the original sort of anime style, but cleaned up, sort of, let's say, original anime style on steroids, maybe. Something like those, the shorts, the pachinko, that came out of Japan for Macross, if you remember. Yeah, something I know you don't want to talk about Macross, but I'm
Right. Oh,
not
you mean like
bringing it in.
updated animation?
The visuals, yeah,
Yeah.
updated animation that looks like the original anime. That's but at the same time, yeah, there's a lot of scope for a live action. I think there'd be a lot of reception among, well, there'd be more people who'd go for live action. Let's put it this way: if they're just going to retread what's already been done in animation, then maybe better to go with live action. But if they're going to be adding more story of, let's say, filling in elements that haven't been animated or put to the screen, then I'd say go with animation. But redoing, let's say, the Macross Saga, the Masters, and all that, we've already seen it. How much are they going to improve? Well, there's a lot they can improve with animation, but I think at the same time they're probably going to wreck a lot of the characterization, a lot of the story. So yeah, I think I'd go with that. If it's live action, there's also the one element. I think obviously there'll be a hell of a lot of CGI involved in it. So, and with de-aging tech, things like that, casting might be a bit easier to cast older actors.
You make good points for both options, just so you know. So that was nice.
All right. Yeah, just on both sides.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Mr. Lewis GG Griffiths.
Yes.
You're up.
I say stick with animated. We know they can do it before. They've done it before. And I figure with animated they can add in a lot to the movie. Like you can add in some of the stuff between the Macross and the Masters. We can get some of the Sentinels. Maybe add in some of the Zor's, the comic about Zor's backstory for the SDF-1 hit Earth. So I say go animated all the way. Because we know that they've done animated before, and Sony has a bad habit of messing up when they try to do live action movies. That's all I have to say on the issue.
All right. You are direct and to the point as always, Lewis.
Yep.
All right. Mr. All right. So who do I have here next? Samuel, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, for me, the ideal state, or rather the ideal template, would be to follow rebuild of Evangelion. Animated movies. Don't know if anyone's seen those. Those are four movies that remake the Evangelion series. My ideal state would be to go that way. But I am also open to a live action movie because, as I always say, either go big or go home. Live action movie is the way to go big. You will need a big risk up front, but the returns would be bigger than a animated movie returns. Who knows? It could double or triple its budget, even though the budget is big upfront. And it will need a big budget upfront, which is the main concern. If they cannot amass the budget, 200 million, then I would say stick with animated. But if they can, go live action.
All right.
All right.
Let's thank you, Sam. Next up is Brian Tribunella. BT. You there, Brian? See if I can nudge him. I'll send a message. Oh, he is having tech issues. Thank you, Eric. All right, we'll come back to you. All right, next up is Brian Dottle. Your thoughts on whether Robotech should go live action or animated for a movie?
Yeah, what's up, everybody? You guys can call me Lancer, so that would be a lot easier. Most people know me as that. And hey, Mora, long time no see. Uh, for me, if it's the reboot, as in when we finally reboot the series, that needs to be animated. That's no doubt in my mind. As for the live action movie, Macross needs to be broke. The Macross saga, I should say, needs to be broken up into three. The first would be the first movie you can really focus on the actual characters, build up a fan base for Roy Fokker, who's your hero's journey with Rick, establish the supporting characters and such. And really, you just need to build maybe about 3 or 4 models. That's the SDF 1, Skull 1, Rick's Fighter, and well, 5 if you count the Zentradi warship, the main one that Britai flies in, and a battle pod. And then you can CG copy and paste for all the rest of them. But then you put your real money into the actual story, and you get that real big character development. And whomever they're going to cast, can put the face to Rick Hunter and Lisa and Min May and Roy, and get the people.
Money in a script. What a concept!
No, I know. What's next? A great director?
Yeah.
No. So you get that behind the movie, people will go, because that's basically what Star Wars was. You had your handmade special effects that Lucas had to do. He focused on the story. You had a pretty decent story, even if it was just the basics of a story, and let our imaginations do the rest. And then you can get the fan base that says, all right, we got the story of Robotech, which we wanted. You have your 2 key battles, which is when, if we're going by the books, when Zor sends off his space carrier, you have your first encounter, a booby trap, and then you end it with when they go and jump to Pluto, and then you end it with transformation, and then you have your final CG battle right there. So now you have your battles, you have your character development, you have your initial story right there in the first movie. That will get people into the second movie, which will bring it into Force of Arms for the last movie. So everybody's happy. So that's my 2 cents.
Solid insight, sir, and thank you. I think you're a first timer here. Not sure, but real solid insights, Brian. All right, up next is Jim Anderson. You were on the clock.
Okay, so I have a couple of ideas. One, do a live action streaming series, do 3 seasons of each, like the Genesis, Masters, Invasion, Sentinels, and then roll it into the live action movie. Or you could do animated for those things and then roll it into a live action movie using some of the same voice actors if you get big name voice actors for them to be in the live action movie. But either way, that's what I would like to see either way, but that's just me.
Long-term plan. I like it. Gives us years and years of stuff. All right, Mr. Anthony Noel. I don't know if you heard the question at the beginning, because I know you came in right after we started. It's just a simple question for this one, where the questions will get more complicated, but this one here for a Robotech movie, visually, live action or animated?
Ooh, that's a loaded one. I could go either way, actually. I would prefer animated because we could do more. But if we do animated, I would like to see more like 3D animation. Let's really bring these colors to life. Let's make them pop. Kind of like those Resident Evil CG movies. Let's make Robotech pop. If we're gonna do animation, let's go forward for it. But if we do live action, same thing, but basically do like Macross Do You Remember Love? Basically slap a Robotech on there and basically use those beats, but live action. Because they pretty much condense the whole story within an hour and a half. I would probably go for a 2 hour and 10-minute movie, get the Macross Saga in there, but leave it open for like streaming services and stuff to do more live action, because I think everything else would work better as a series. We tend to, lean heavily on that third generation a lot, which I love. Don't get it twisted, but um, I feel like most of the fandom really wants to see Macross, and so let's give them what they want. If we do it live action, that would be the way to do it.
Okay. You came in after I established the ground rules, and one of them was in terms of like DYRL, Delta, and all that stuff. Not in the discussion, but you came in after those ground rules are set.
Okay,
That's
I
okay. No,
Then go with
we're fine.
my first one.
I did not want to abruptly cut you, but like, yeah, that part we're going to stay away from for the rest of the discussion. So you guys have had some great answers, great insights, great arguments for live and for animated. As we close this question down, all I'm just going to say is that I think animated gives you it gives you more to work with, and I think you can get out from there more footage versus more footage, which you can include more versus a live animated, but live action, I mean. And with live action, you've got flesh characters, and it'll be really interesting to see, how those characters turn out, especially the technology. And then looking at the Cole Price artwork, it's definitely something to wonder how it would come out. So great insights, guys. So I'm going to share the screen real quick for our next question. Now, when it comes to the story, and when it comes to the story, if I can just it always happens when I try to do something. There we go. All right, so that you guys can all see it. When it comes to the story itself, now we know the 85 episodes of Robotech, where it starts with Booby Trap and ends with Symphony of Light. The three generations, Macross, Masters, New Generation. But when it comes to the story of what the movie or movies of Robotech will be, do you want a carbon copy? Just the animation put to live action scenery. Do you want a reboot? Start over? Give it the look of Robotech, but changes here and there. Do you want a reimagining? Where it's something of where the feel and spirit are there, the concepts, but it's very changed to what we saw as Robotech. Do we work on the expanded universe? I mean, you've got comics, novels, RPGs, so much out there to work with, and it's still Robotech. Or do you throw the dice and create an entire new story, an entire new universe? I don't know how, if you push it 1,000 years into the future or some other concept, but a brand new Robotech, which has nothing to do with what we have grown up with. So let's go back and all right, Brian Dennemede, you are up.
That's such a loaded question, dude.
Oh, come on.
Oh, okay. All right. So, look, I've seen the 85 episodes. I love the 85 episodes. I don't want to rewatch the 85 episodes for a new generation of people. I want the story. I want the characters. Absolutely. The books do a great job of modernizing, if you will, the storyline in terms of giving even more depth. I think that the guide should be the expanded universe with the books. Give us the characters, give us the universe. I'm fine with the updated modernization of the technology and everything behind it. You know, I'm a Star Trek fan. I love the original Star Trek, but you know what? The original Star Trek's technology doesn't stand up to what we can do today in television, which is why we don't have the same cardboard cutout decks in modern Star Trek. So I'm fine with the updated look as long as they keep the characters, they keep the principle of the storyline, the principle of the story. Nothing really needs to change there. You just modernize it, bring it to a degree that the modern audience will can sit down, watch it, and be like, "Wow, that's really cool." I hate to say it, but Michael Bay destroyed the opportunity for a VF1 to come on scene and for kids to go, "Oh wow, that's cool." It's got to be a modernized VF1. It's got to be modern designs. So it's a bit of a re-envisioning, following the expanded universe of Robotech, keeping the stories and characters that we like, but the visuals play out modern. That's what I would love to see. Just so that more than just us in this group can go, wow, that is freaking cool. Give me more.
All right. Love it. Ian, so what story do you want to bring forth?
Okay, well, while I haven't read it, I have been listening to their reviews of it on the podcast Robo Skullcast, and I think maybe they might, whoever does it might want to take a cue from Titan Comics when they did their Robotech story, because when they did it, and I think this was kind of like to what Sam said earlier about the rebuild of Evangelion. If you've never read the Titan Comics, from what it sounds like to me, they take the aspects of the story that you know, and then they do something with it, and they take it off in another direction that makes it fresh and exciting. And whether that's making slight alterations to the characters, or killing off characters that didn't die before, or other things, that it just makes it interesting. And I think if you do that, you can also kind of get around that whole problem of trying to adapt what was a long, very epic, convoluted story into maybe something a little more simplistic. If you do that, I think that you pretty much may have to, if you want to do a 90-minute to 2-hour movie. Yeah, I think that would be an interesting thing to do. It not only makes Robotech accessible to new fans, but it also gives the older fans maybe something to look for, and something to enjoy. So that's my 2 cents on it.
Awesome. Okay, Mr. Spankler, you have done so many stories. You're a big part of that expanded universe. So really interested to see your insights on this.
Well, this may be uh, a, a radical idea. What I would like to do, though, what I would like to see in a Robotech film is something that shows the general audience the scope and the cast of Robotech. So it would be, you would do a little bit of Robotech Genesis, the so you meet at least a version of Zor and see the spaceship on its way to Earth, and then go into uh, the first couple of episodes of Robotech. And my fantasy it would be ending with Global going. It's going to be a long trip home, which I think is the end of last line of episode 3 or 4, and that would give you plenty of room to do other material. But like I say, kind of introducing a general audience to the whole concept and world.
All right. And I before I get to the next person, Brian T did respond to the question we had before. He was having some technical difficulties. Hold on, give me a second here. I gotta pull up his I don't want it reimagined. I don't want it redrawn. I don't want the director's vision for it. I want a faithful look to the anime. I want a faithful story to the novels. The three main stories, four if you include the Sentinels, creates a legacy on par with Star Wars. Film the novels, copy the mecha faithfully. Peter Jackson did a 3+ hour movie and hit all the high points of Lord of the Rings. No reason Robotech can't get the same treatment. I'll pay $100 for director's cut box set afterwards. All right. All right, Jason, you're up.
Hi. I wouldn't mind any of the above. If we got a carbon copy, I would see that. A reboot would be interesting, and I'd even be down for a reimagining. The only problem with a reimagining is that certain writers and directors could take perhaps too many liberties with the story, if you know what I mean. I mean, look at what happened when we got Super Mario Brothers back in 1993. Now, I love that movie, but it was torn to shreds by some people, and I understand why. But I would honestly love to see what someone could do with the film in any way, because I'm a pretty open guy, not gonna lie. Yep, the Dark Tower as well, Mr. Tribunella. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on it. On an unrelated note, I would love to see what Steven Spielberg and John Williams would do with a live action movie. Not gonna lie. And Bill, if I could talk to you for a second, thank you for being here tonight. Sorry I couldn't meet you in Los Angeles last year.
No problem. I'm sorry I didn't get to meet you either, but thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. So that's just my 2 cents. But I don't mean to sound desperate, but at this point, I think I'd be open to just about anything.
Hey, you're probably not alone in that thought. Perhaps outside of the resort, perhaps inside this room. So,
heck, if I ever make it to Chicago, we'll go out for a beer or two, and I'll tell you some ideas that I have.
You got it.
I'll buy the first round.
All right, Miss Bradley, what have you got? What have you got? Your thoughts on what a story would look like for you if you were running things?
Ryan did it again.
Maura, that was. Can you hear me, Maura?
I'm sorry, my daughter was talking to me about
Oh,
something.
I'm so sorry. Sorry.
No. Sorry. But I want to say that I like carbon copy, like the idea of carbon copy, but I really like the idea of modernizing it. So yeah, I would go for that. Like I love Strange New Worlds. I just worship Strange New Worlds. So I like that idea. Yeah, I don't like remixes. I don't like reimagines. So that's what I would say.
Okay. Confession: I've never seen Stranger Things, so I'll get to it.
Get to it.
New Worlds.
Oh, Strange New Worlds. Okay. Oh, the Star Trek one. Oh yeah, I've watched that one. Okay. I got the names confused. Sorry about that. All right, let's continue. All right, Mr. McCoy. What would your story be for Robotech?
I think if you're going to start off a Robotech, and I think one movie would be good, but I think we'd all like to see like a series continue.
Sure.
But Robotech starts with Macross, and I think that's where you need to start. Now, Mora had a point because Strange New Worlds is the best Star Trek since DS9. And I think, modernizing things, I wouldn't mind seeing, say, the Veritechs instead of being Tomcats, maybe being F-22s, something like that. But I think it needs to start at the beginning. If you want to throw a little bit of Genesis in there, a little bit of Zor Prime, or well, not Zor Prime, Zor, that's cool too. But it needs to start where it starts. with Rick, with Roy, and you can build it out from there.
All right. This is cool. I'll be honest. I walked into this when I did the question. I didn't think people would want a carbon copy, but hey, nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. And again, no wrong answers in this roundtable. Eric, what would your story be?
So I kind of gave away my answer earlier in the chat. I didn't know this is what you were going to ask. So I said earlier I would prefer the animation. And that's what I'd like to see in terms of form. I guess I'd be closest to maybe Reboot, which would incorporate more of the material from the novels in a more kind of updated animation style. So I guess that would be Reboot, because it wouldn't be quite carbon copy. It would be expanded, I think, with an updated style.
All right. All right, Chris and Henry, you guys are up. So what story do you have in mind?
Go, Henry.
So I was thinking we just stick with Macross. Like, we could do it in separate movies, but chances are just do Macross.
A carbon copy?
Yeah, just a complete carbon copy of Macross.
Okay.
I don't want to differ from the story too much. It's Macross.
All right.
Oh,
okay.
One other thing. There's a cat in this room that had gotten on my dad's lap and was rubbing its face on dad's face. And the name of that cat is Bowie.
Oh, Bowie Grant.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
My God, you guys are
You're
are
very
all
excited.
in.
Is Bowie Grant named after David Bowie, though?
Yeah, it's David Bowie.
That's what we think. So we're big David Bowie fans too. So
Okay.
But
hey,
works every way.
Why I became a musician.
Works out either way. So
still Bowie Grant.
So Chris, any thoughts on what your story would be?
Yeah, I'll keep it brief just to stick to the time limit. I'm also a huge Cowboy Bebop fan, and I love what they did with the Cowboy Bebop movie, which was a reimagination of sorts. It was actually like a midquel. It was a story that took place within the series, and I would really like to see something like that as a live action, where it's a story, a Robotech story that fits within the Robotech stories, ties all the generations together, but doesn't rewrite anything. I don't want things. I heard earlier, I forget who said the comment, but like the reimagining can get a little dangerous because of the liberties that certain writers might take, and I totally get that. But I think a story that could neatly fit within the saga and give us some new points of view and characters would be awesome.
That could work. Not gonna lie, that could work.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Mr. Geith. So what would be on your storyboard?
Like I was saying earlier on, if it's something to fill in between the different chapters or sagas, then definitely animation as close to the original but improved as possible. If it's live action, I'd lean more towards maybe not straightforward carbon copy with maybe elements of reimagining, updates where necessary. As far as a reboot is concerned, I don't know. I the way I see it is any live action would be effectively be a reboot. If you see what I don't know, if you see where I'm coming from. The idea being that the different mediums that Robotech's been presented in, they often have they feel very different. The animation from the comic books, the novels, they don't always feel that they're all continuations of each other. I sort of treat them as separate entities or different takes on it, on the thing, and I can't see how an animated, a live action film would fit in as, let's say, part of the singular continuity. So it would by necessity be a reboot, effectively. That's kind of what my take on it is. In animation, I'd like, sorry, again, as a live action, yeah, obviously they'd need to start out with Macross, with the Macross saga, but the one I'd be most interested in seeing would be the new generation as a film, something, let's say, very gritty in terms of the visual style, with the fact that it's a guerrilla group, things like that. Um, yeah, that's kind of where I'm coming from visually. I'm more interested. I think filming something like New Generation would probably be easier. Probably wouldn't involve quite as much need for CGI, special effects, things like that.
You're gonna love one of the later questions with something you said. So,
All right.
all right, awesome, Mr. Lewis. Your story.
I'd say if it was on my storyboard, I'd say I'd bring in the expanded universe, like the Stranger Machine guy, game guides we've been getting, their books, and some of the comics, but also kind of ramp up the animation, bring it into modern format, the animation, make it more friendly for today's people to catch their attention, and update the Vertex to a newer fighter. Because the 80s are gone. We need to update the animations, what I'm going to say.
All right.
I'll end it there.
In terms of the story, should it be the same as the animated series, or should it go in different directions?
I say stick with the way the animated series goes, because we know the 85 episodes are proven. Let's just bring in some of the extended universe, because nobody really wants to watch the same 85 episodes over again.
Okay, fair enough. All right, and Samuel, you're up.
Okay, I would say not just a reimagining, but a reframing. Okay, first of all, if it were to be up to me, I wouldn't touch Macross Saga, because put Macross Saga into live action or even on screen, half the world's gonna say, "Hey, it's Macross." So I would want to touch New Generation. Start from there. I would also think that the New Generation movie wouldn't need a budget as big as one would need with Macross Saga. So if I could, I would start with New Generation, let the Macross characters exist as background characters, do a small tweak to the beginning of the movie where maybe Admiral Hunter addresses the attack force directly, for example. That's the reimagining part. But if I will need to start with Macross Saga, then it will be the reframing. The main thing I want to do is to put Zor front and center. Start like the Superman movie, you know, how it started on Krypton. Start with Zor, his death,
I certainly think you should introduce Zor in the first movie, one way or the other. Yeah.
Yep, I agree.
Yep, definitely introduce Zor in the first movie.
Yeah, so in that sense, reimagining plus a reframing. If as much as possible, I would prefer not to touch Rick Hunter, Lisa Hayes, Min May, all that.
All right.
Because as I said, one movie will not do it justice.
Yeah, that's one of the big things in this discussion. We talk about a movie, and when you have a property such as Robotech, you got to put an S after that movie. So, but great take, man. Okay, Brian, you gave us your answer in chat. Mr. Brian T. And Brian Dawdle, you're up.
You guys are seriously just reading my mind. Yes, Macross needs to be broken up into 3 movies, as I said earlier. Yes, you need to start with Zor, with explosions going off in the background, with silhouettes of the Invid, but you don't know that it's the Invid. And with Zor talking about how he's shooting off the battle fortress to some quote unquote unknown universe, even though we know what that universe is. And then having the Robotech Masters kill him, with them saying, "Where's the protoculture matrix?" And that's when the battle fortress jumps. You then cut to the opening of Booby Trap, and then either you have a monologue or you have what they did in uh, Hunt for Red October, where you put the words on the screen just scrolling, saying, in the year 2050, high above Macross Island, a phenomenal event is about to change the course of human history. And then you have the SDF-1 crash onto Macross Island, uh, and you start from there. But then instead of a reimagining, you need to do at least story beats from the original 85. You got to have, shot for shot of some parts of Booby Trap. You have to have shot for shot parts of Transformation. You have to have shot for shot Maximilia's battle. You have to have shot for shot Force of Arms. You have to have shot for shot when Roy dies. Spoiler alert. There's certain things from the original 85 that need to be shot for shot in the live action so that, one, we don't riot, and two, those are the story beats that will hook the layman. And I look at, before I end it, I look at the Voltron series that Netflix did. We all have seen Voltron, the original stuff back in 85. But if you've seen Voltron Legendary Defender, that was a reimagining. Yes, you still had the 5 lions, but they totally changed the entire story. They took maybe a couple of elements from the original, but they changed the whole thing. And, I'm sorry, Hollywood, you can't do that to Robotech because, like Sam was saying, half the world would riot. And they're already going to riot, Sam, as soon as you say Robotech. Half the world is going to riot already, whether it's Macross, Southern Cross, or Most Beta, aka New Generation. Half the world's going to riot already. So if you're going to riot, make them riot with at least the stuff that we know. So, give the story beats, give the essence of the actual story, but give the visual story beats that we know and love to keep the action that brings in the layman into this live action movie. That's my 2 cents.
I like your angles, Brian. Very nice. Jim, you're at the helm of the story. How do you proceed?
Well, I read the books before I got into the animated series, so I would want a straight up adaptation of the books. Whether or not you have the shapings, that's a whole other question. But I'd want pretty much a straight up adaptation of the books. Whether or not, like I said, you include the stuff they changed from the cartoon, that's a whole other ball of wax. But
All right. I'm glad. Yeah, I love running into people who were into the book, who read the novels before the actual show. I think I don't know, for some reason, those people that I've run into, I'm a show first, then the novels. That's how I grew up. But hearing people who got into the novels first, it's got to be, sometimes you see visuals, sometimes the visuals you imagine reading the books, and then you watch the animation. Perhaps it was totally different than what you thought. Was that the case?
Pretty much, yeah, for the most part.
I was just curious. So, all right.
Except for maybe
that.
some visuals of some characters I had in my head.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it was pretty accurate.
All right, awesome. Anthony, we'll finish out this round.
All right. So I partially agree with everybody else and partially not. For starters, I don't think we should start with New Generation. I think that's a mistake that we keep making with Robotech. I think that was the mistake that was made with the Shadow Chronicles in general. So I don't think we should start there. I do think we should go straight for the nostalgia market, start with Macross and do a blending of a beat for beat, not beat for beat of the original series, but blend it with the lore that was put in the novels to enrich it and enhance it. I don't think I would put Zor full front and center at the beginning. That's just me. If we were to put Zor at the beginning, have him on screen right before his death, right before Lang gets the mind boost, I would probably start things more with the global civil war and really show that destruction, really show that dissension with humanity, then have the SDF-1 crash. I wouldn't really start with Zor. I would start with something that people can grasp a little bit more, and global civil war, especially in the day and age we live in,
Amen.
would definitely, grab that attention.
Wow, that is a very interesting take. The global civil war. That's the first I've heard, like, in movie talk with people over the years that wanted to see that aspect. So really, thank you for sharing that one, Anthony. Awesome. All right, to close this one out, wow. Yeah, you're right, Brian. I gave myself a loaded question for this one. So, I wouldn't want a carbon copy. I would love for, I'd love for certain aspects of the novels to be used, and novels, comics, and RPGs. I'm an expanded universe type of guy, and we'd put those elements in and create something similar to what we already know. I think you got a movie there, and you've got a lot of material to use. So that's just my take again on that. So, all right, let us move on to the next question. And all right, so when it comes, we've got the story, we've got the story however you want it. Now it comes to the timeline. We are in 2026. The timeline in the original Robotech story is 1999. Of course, obviously it was originally debuted in 1985. So 1999 worked as a futuristic date. And then the actual launch date was 10 years later, 2009, and then it went forward. But here we are in 2026. So my question, this one should be easy to answer, straightforward. Does 1999 still work as for a Robotech movie timeline? Brian, you're up. Brian,
I'm gonna say this with regards to that question. When I say Top Gun, the movie, what do you think of?
Tom Cruise and F-14s?
1986.
F-14s.
F-14s.
And when you think F-14s,
Tom Cruise,
within the reference
F-14.
when it's in the reference of this group, F-14, what do you think about?
Robotech.
Yeah.
There's no way you could do, at least in my opinion, a 1999 era version of Macross without people going, Tom Cruise and Top Gun. They're just, how are you not going to make that reference? It should be, again, my opinion, brought more in line with current timeline. Would I'd love to see an F-14 up there, an F-15 Eagle? Hell yeah, why not? But would it make sense with the current planes and everything we have? Now, there is one problem with going with a modern fighter. Is the modern fighter, when it's transformed, going to be the size of a Zentradi? So you got that catch-22. I'd love to see it take place modern times. You know what? With the way the world is right now, it's a perfect time for Robotech and the Third War. Just that broke out just before the arrival of the SDF-1. So it would coincide with modern time. So let's take the modern vehicles Let's take the modern events that's happening right now, and that's a perfect opener for the beginning of Macross, beginning of Robotech. So I still got a few moments.
Yeah, you got
So
about 30 you got about 20
okay, so
seconds.
quick note. I liked what Bill said. I liked what Anthony said. I love what they said actually about the retake on Zor. I would do it when Lang gets his mind boost. Let Lang see Zor's memories right before he died, right when the SDF-1 launched. This way, like Anthony said, you start with with the Civil War, the global Civil War. You get the crashing of the SDF-1, and then you get your little bit of a filler of information when Lang gets that mind boost about Zor, but they don't have to go into great detail, but it still fits within the story.
All right.
Good to go.
All right. Awesome take. Ian, you're up.
Well, okay. Well, I kind of like agree with Brian in the fact that, and I think that's interesting that you also think the same thing. That because whenever I try to explain what Robotech is to someone who's never seen it before, I always say, think Top Gun, but with giant robots. So
Yep.
that has
Yep.
always been kind of my go-to about it.
Or G.I. Joe.
Or yeah, GI Joe with giant robots. But as far as like whether or not 1999 still works as a valid time frame, that it depends on like how you come at it to me, because you could do it and with the disclaimer that this is like an alternate history maybe, although that might be a bit of a reach for some people, I think. But that could work in one way. Or you could kind of do or maybe you could just like maybe push it further ahead. I've noticed like some franchises do that. Star Trek always kind of has to, ever since like the 1990s happened, they had to like keep pushing the eugenics wars further ahead into the future, or try to come up with explanations as to why nobody who lived through the 1990s ever saw it happen or whatever. And say it was a secret war or something like that happened in the background, I think. So it depends. It depends on how you could if you're creative enough, you could make it work and have the audience buy into it. That's kind of like how I would look at it. I mean, I don't really have a strong opinion either way on it. It just really depends on how good the writing is, and whether or not you could sell it. That's where I am on that.
Ian, your room looks badass.
I think it's a hot mess personally, because there's some clutter back here. I am trying currently to I need to organize some action figures I bought for Masters of the Universe Origins. I need to put those away. I'm also have put up the dark art of miniature painting. So I've got some games that I need to pay with miniatures that I need to paint. I've just started on that. So my girlfriend and I need to declutter. At least we're not hoarders, thank God. But we
Makes
have a
me feel
small
better
space.
about my condo.
Okay. We have a small space. We have learned to make the most of it, but we could stand to organize it a bit.
Still, I stand by my words.
Well, thank you. I'll take the compliment.
You're welcome.
John, you're on mute. John.
Violence.
John. Whoops.
John,
yeah. Here. Yeah, I heard. Okay, so thank you, Ian. And Bill, does 1999 work for you still?
I don't think 1999 is going to work for a general audience. Just like uh, when you try to explain the John Carter movie and you tell them it's taking place on Mars, I found people balking a lot. I would move the dates up a generation, 20 years or so, and just go from there.
All right. Yeah. With even in 1999, you still had the discovery of extraterrestrials and all that. So it was a question that when in doing this and coming up with the questions, I realized, wait a minute, Robotech takes place in 1999, or at least the beginning. So, but again, everybody's going to have their take on this. Jason, 1999, yes or no?
Well, it could probably still work. The only thing is, unlike Robotech, everybody now has smartphones and PlayStations. But if necessary, we could push it up to 2019 or 2039. Because I'm sure by 2039, technology will advance perhaps tenfold. I'm not sure if we'll have starships or not, but who can say? But I would personally be okay with 1999, but it would be understandable if we had to push the storyline up a decade or two. Not gonna lie, that's just me. Though I will say this: I'm all for Tom Cruise playing an older Roy Hunter.
There's an image to conjure with. I like that.
Yeah.
What can I say? Dad
Tom
wanted me to
Cruise
be a
in a
pilot.
blonde. There you go.
Mom wanted me to be an admiral. I just wanted to join the Church of Scientology. I love Katie Holmes. Sorry, that was a little off tangent for me. I'll shut up now. But yeah, I said Roy Hunter, not Roy Foker.
All right.
And I am actually working on a Roy Hunter story or two right now, so maybe someday I can share it with a friend of mine.
We'll love to
Roy
read
Hunter and Ben Sterling.
Just so.
All right, Maura. 2026 or beyond, or in between, or 1999, keep it there.
I never thought about it. So it does make sense with the way things are these days to have realistic reasons for the global civil war. But I'm also okay with 1999. My brain says 1999 and 2009 for the launch. So I'd be fine being traditional too.
All right. Jim, what's your preferred timeline?
I feel kind of weird saying this because I feel like I've been pushing like to keep it the same, keep it the same, keep it the same. But in this case, I don't think you can. I'm sure a lot of us, as far as the old school fans, would love to see it at 1999. But if you're trying to push a blockbuster movie, it's not going to work for somebody who hasn't seen the series, or maybe they walked past the Robotech comic once in the comic shop, but they didn't stop to open it. And I think you need to push it up. Maybe 2040, 2050. Well, maybe I'd say probably 2040 for the crash, 2050 for the invasion, somewhere in there. Like I said, I mentioned earlier, updating the fighters. And maybe, when Rick's out walking the flight line, he does pull out his cell phone. I don't know. Because I don't know if you could get the general public to accept an alternate history type of thing. I mean, it's not that popular on screen. I read a lot of it, but you don't see a lot of it on TV or in the movies.
Not gonna lie, that does make sense. Good answer.
Very nice, sir. All right, Eric. Oh, let me get your brother out of the way. His response was, does the year matter? The world is at war. The SDF appears and crash lands and go. I love his straightforwardness, and I told him that in the chat. You're up, Eric.
Well, I hate to say it, but I think my brother's right. Even though I hate to say it. But if I had to answer the question, I think that for new fans, a 1999 timeline would just be really confusing. Why it would be at that point 30 years in the past. with futuristic technology. I just think it would add a layer of complexity that might be alienating for new people.
Yeah, this is the like with what Morris said earlier. It's not something I think about a lot, but it's like once you think about it, you're like, would it work? Would it not work? So, but yeah, I'm loving the take so far, guys. Who is up next? Okay, Chris and Henry had to leave. And if you're watching this afterwards, Chris and Henry, thank you. You're always a very arms are open always to our live events, and we hope to see you again. So,
John,
all right.
we need Henry's opinion on that question.
All right. I'll post the questions. I'll post the questions later on, later on this week. So we get the takes from
he
people
would be
from the
that
pages.
generation, right?
Yeah.
Let's get his view.
No, he's 11, so it would be way before he was born. So
well, that's why he's the perfect one to ask the question of.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
John Bryan, I just want to interject just briefly. I kind of agree with Brian. I would have been interested to hear some of Henry's opinions about casting in particular.
We got to get him back. Well,
yeah, for the casting, if you could get in touch with him, his dad, maybe get him to write out a list of what his casting opinions, because he'd know a lot more about some of the actors who could potentially play the different characters in their teens than we would.
Yeah. Basically, you're saying we're old guys. I get it. So.
Yeah.
He's the target audience. Let's be honest.
This is true. All right, Lewis. 1999. Yay or nay?
I'm gonna have to say nay. It just doesn't work anymore. We need to bring it up. If we're gonna make the animation in 2026, we need to bring the timeline up to current time. Even if we have to change the planes like F-18s or F-22s. I think there's a way we can do it because it would really fit in more with the crowd today. The younger generation just wouldn't understand it if it's set in the 90s. It'd have to be set in today's world for them to be hooked on the story. And that ends mine.
All right. Guys, did you want to add anything in terms of the 1999 timeline, if it worked for you or not?
Yeah, I did have I was jotting down some notes while during the discussion. Look, Robotech isn't, let's say, as grounded as in its original timeline as some, let's say, other I don't know, properties or whatever, like Watchmen in the 80s. So when they redid it, they made it in the 80s. My feeling is if we're adding to the current timeline, the current whatever, the canon, however you want to call it, then yeah, stick with the original 99 timeline, since we're going to be adding into that, slotting into that. However, if it's a reboot or reimagination, taking live action, then that's starting as essentially as a reboot. Then no, 1999 doesn't necessarily work too well. In that scenario, I'd push it up 10 years ahead of now. Maybe start with the Oumuamua incident from a few years ago as a starting point. That tie that in somehow with reality, but I'd also at the same time, in terms of tying it in with current events, things, I'd stay away completely with, let's say, politics. The idea of the world being close to war now. I think some of the themes, let's say, some of the cultural clashes and political clashes, things like that, would only, let's say, I don't know, they'd alienate different people, different potential audiences. I'd stay away from that sort of stuff completely. As far as there's just a couple of other points. If we stick to the 99 timeline, we could join the story later on, obviously, with the characters, how they'd be right now. That would also solve the problem of finding, let's say, young a young cast. We could join whoever, Ray, Lisa, whatever, Scott, later on when they're older, and we can get, let's say, where casting will be easier. It'll be easier to find good actors with more gravitas, let's say.
Yeah.
Two other very quick points. I'm sorry, there was a little bit of talk about the planes, things like that. I never saw the Vertex as necessarily as Tomcats. They were just generic twin-engine planes, and that sort of design is still in use. I mean, we have things like the Su-35. I always thought that would be a nice update as as an even sexier looking airplane. And for the Zor and graphic novel I'd add in, I like the idea of including that in a film, but I'd stick that in as maybe flashbacks or some as part of a non-linear, let's say, story. That's kind of it. I just flash back to it, or just use a non-linear way of telling the story if we were to include that.
Right, make space for it, but not that it doesn't dominate the other story.
Yeah.
All right, Sam, what do you got for me? Or for us?
See, this question of time frame is precisely why I prefer to avoid the Macross saga. Just start in the new generation, far future. But if I were to start from the Macross saga, I would say don't even specify the year. As someone said just now, just say the world's at war. Whichever year it is, it doesn't matter. And I feel that will also give more flexibility when it comes to the designs, because you're no longer beholden to that real world aesthetic. It could be entirely new design, unrelated to any real world aircraft. As long as you don't specify a year, you don't box yourself in as to which era or how realistic it is. So yeah, that would be my take when it comes to time frame. Don't even specify a year. It just takes place whenever it takes place in a time and place similar to today, but we don't put it on screen.
Instead of a long time ago, very far into the future.
I think Samuel's
near
got
future.
a point
If it's Macross Saga, near future.
Right.
A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Wait,
they already covered that one. So.
I think Samuel's got a good point though.
Yeah.
I was reading something somewhere. I fancy myself a writer, although I've never been published. And something about when you're doing science fiction, don't add the numbers, because then somebody can always find a way to disprove what you're saying. And if you don't give a definitive year, I think that does two things. One, you're not wedded to any particular aesthetic, but also, okay, I remember, I think I was in high school when the launch date for Lost in Space happened. I think it was in 1995 or something. And if you fast forward, so what I said was 2030, or I mean 2040. 20 years from now, if somebody's watching that movie and we haven't had a global civil war, that's not going to make any sense either. With what Samuel's saying, that makes sense, because if you don't give an exact year, then you never go past that point in history, and it's always kind of valid that way.
It's its own timeline. Solid. Very solid, sir. Brian Dawdle, 1999. Thumbs up or thumbs down?
I would have to say that it needs to be in the future, because modern aircraft are getting smaller. The F-22 Raptor is an alpha fighter. So if they tried to make an F-22 VF-1, it just doesn't work because it's too small. So if you do it in like 2050, 2055, and then have the launch in 2060, 2065, you can logistically say, we're using the airframe of an old F-14 to become the new Veritech fighter to fight against the Zentradi, because lengthwise they're as tall as a Zentradi. You can justify that. And you could say we took the airframe of an F-14, modernize it to the 21st century, with new bells and whistles and hard points and the whole nine and whatever. And boom, you got your Veritech fighter. And then when you advance, if it does become a franchise, then you can use the airframe of an F-22 Raptor. You can use the airframe of maybe an F-16 and call it maybe the POS-1 Logan. Whatever it is that you're going to uh, you know do, you have that flexibility. So that way you don't have to go back in time and then have an entire generation go, huh? So you just save yourself the worry and the trouble.
Yeah, you get that freedom of how would you put it? That creative freedom to go forward, and you're not necessarily chained down to what was in this case. So very nicely put. Jim, I know you typed in some stuff. I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
No, no. I was just thinking, start with the flying circus, and then that way you introduce Roy, and then you go 10 years later. You show the start of the Civil War, him joining the military. Then you do 10 years later from present day or whatever. You just skip the whole year altogether.
All right, Anthony. So 1999, do you party like it's that or party like it's 2026?
Absolutely party like it's 1999. And let me explain why. Because one, I love Elseworld story. Two, I've heard just listening to everybody, there's a lot of opinion that the modern day crowd will not latch on to a 90s setting. And I disagree with that because we've had great success with shows like The Last of Us, which takes place in the 90s and then moves forward. And so we can buy, if it's presented correctly, we can definitely buy a 1999 year and have it, essentially be in an alternate reality, but present it just like it is, 1999. And if you want to slap a twist on it, don't put 1999 at first. Sit there and just put present day. Start off the movie with the SCF-1 crashing, destruction, flashback, 1990 or whenever the Civil War starts. I'm having brain issues right there. And then, and then when we go back to the SDF-1 being rebuilt, 1999, we can totally do the 90s. And it would bring a different aesthetic to the movie or show. I think there is something to say about nostalgia, and not just like things like The Last of Us, but Captain Marvel is another example where we had things take place in the 90s and it worked. It worked. So I don't think the year is, as important as it could be, but I would like to start it in the 90s because we could really get some nostalgia in there, really get some timepieces. And the F-14 Tomcat is an sleek, recognizable machine. And robots move across. And not always. But, but I feel like that imagery is class. That's why they always that darn transformable Veritech at every convention known to man. They put a lot of money into it and it looks great, but there's a reason why they have it. And so I think the nostalgia market would really work well for the Robotech property. So I say 110% 1999, but present it in a way that's gonna boom and pop.
All right. All right. Okay, to close this out, the idea that some of you have brought up in terms of who cares about the year, just go present the story. The year is not it's not bearing heavily on what's going on. So it gives you something to think about. It gives you something to think about. But yeah, all great takes, guys. Let's keep it moving. But you guys, this is awesome, man. And people are going to be watching after this are really, you know, just a side note, if you're watching us on Facebook right now, live, the post is the link to get into the meeting. I put it there because I saw someone say, oh, I've missed out on another live event. No, you haven't. You can come into the room. So the link is there so you can come in and join us. So but again, let's keep moving.
I hate to butt in, but I'm going to have to stop for tonight.
Okay.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it. Have a good time. I'll watch the rest of the panel later on.
All right. Thanks for joining us, Bill. Always
Thank you,
Bill.
Bill.
Come back anytime.
Bill, thank you so much. You have a great evening.
Have a good night, Bill. It was fun talking with you.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, we love it, man. Love having legends here. So,
Absolutely.
all right, let's
I feel like I keep talking over people. Do I keep talking over people?
It's all right. I'll let you know if it hampers things. All right. So a lot of you guys have been talked about it with this question here. So I'm going to put it straight to you. I'm sure you'll have straight to the point answers. Okay. The Mecca. All right. You guys have talked about it. F-14, F-22. All right. If you guys can see the slide, right?
Yep.
Okay. At the bottom of the bottom right-hand corner, you've got the Cole Price version of the Robotech for the concept art for the movie. For those of you that didn't see it before at the beginning of the slide presentation, that is there's an artist by the name of Cole Price who's worked on other movies with concept art. He was reached out to do concept art for the Robotech movie. And this is one of those an updated Veritech fighter at the bottom right hand of your screen. So so when it comes to the mecha, updated originals, add new mech here and there that's that wasn't part of the Robotech story. And I say this only because the Robotech RPG, especially the latest edition that they have out in circulation, Homefront, they've added quite a few mech to the Robotech lore. Or throw it all to the side and say a complete rework. And the other question, do we retire the F-14, which in most eyes is what it's a modified F-14 that is the Veritech fighter in the Macross saga. So all right, Brian, you're up.
Oh, you're killing me. It's all good though.
He's laughing. That's not good.
So like you said, my dilemma is one. I absolutely do love the F-14 VF1. I mean, I do. It's Robotech. If we were to keep the mecha, I think there's room in the design to make it. And I hate saying it this way. I don't want to say make it better, but just give it a new coat of paint, so to speak. Still the same design, but I don't know if anyone's familiar with Transor Z when they modernized his design. Like
it's based off Mazinger, right?
Yep, Mazinger Z. So Mazinger Z, they modernized the design, but it still pays homage to the original design. And I feel that they could do that to Robotech's mecha. Give it that modern facelift without injuring, if you will, the original design. If they do that, I don't see any reason why we can't keep the designs that we're familiar with, based off of just what they did with that particular anime series and its mecha. So yeah, I would and look, if the ability is there to keep it and modernize in that sense, heck yeah, do it. Absolutely. I'd love to see a VF1 with like really modernized transformation components to it. How cool would that be? A VF1? Yes. Give me the hover tank, a Logan, the Ajax. Yeah. Hell yeah. Please, yes. Keep the original design, give it a modern improvements, and let's go with it. That would be badass.
All right. Ian.
Well, that's a good question because I think like I said earlier, you don't want. I hope that they don't make if this movie does get made, I hope they don't make them like looking ugly like the Michael Bay Transformers. I'd hate that if they made the Batloid designs look like ugly and clunky looking and stuff like that.
Agreed.
Yeah. On the other hand, well, what was the artist there, John? I liked his
Paul Price.
Paul, I like those Veritechs that he did. I think that was a good way of modernizing them. I mean, it's tough because like those designs, whether you want to call them Valkyries or Veritechs, it's iconic. And obviously you run into this problem, and this has been a problem all for with Robotech forever, is you can't really use those designs for obvious reasons, because of the agreements between Studio Nue and Harmony Gold and all that. That's always been like that mecha has always been like those designs have always been a constant sticking point, I think. So you really can't use them, but you want to be able to have them designed in such a way that just recalls that look. And again, going back to the design of the F-14s and stuff, which the Veritechs were based on, that is an older plane design, and you have these, and aviation technology has advanced since then. You can kind of explain it away to make them larger, to make them on the same scale as the Zentradi, but you have to kind of try to make those jets look at least resembling the designs that fans know and love. And hopefully, if they can get the right people, and again, Prost designs, I think, are a good way of like a good indicator of like where you can go with that. So I'm kind of hoping that that's what they'll do. I think you kind of have to, because you cannot use those classic Valkyrie designs because those belong to Studio Nue. You can't really do it. You got to change it for better or worse.
Would you do it across the board for all the generations?
Well, no, I think you can pretty much do like the Southern Cross and Mospeada designs because they're not as jealously protected by their respective studios. I think Tatsunoko did both Southern Cross and Mospeada, but those they've displayed like a willingness to kind of use those or be a bit more freer with those designs. So yeah, but the Macross era Veritechs and Destroids and Battle Pods, you're gonna have to redesign those because they're just that's like that's a copyright thing, basically.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I said, this week I'll post everything that Cole Price did in terms of. I think there's one more Veritech scene that he did, so you get to see kind of more the plain version of how the design went. All right, Jason, you got the floor.
I wouldn't mind seeing the oh shoot, sorry, had a brain fart. I wouldn't mind seeing the original Valkyrie design or the original Tomcat design, not gonna lie, but I wouldn't mind seeing some new stuff either. I'm sure it would definitely sell some toys. Sorry, I had to put that out there.
We don't know. They have her in ICU. They're waiting for the.
Let's see. So, yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing the Tomcat or Valkyrie designs, but yes, I agree with Brian. What he just said. I wouldn't mind seeing the hover tanks, the alphas, the cyclones, the Logans, even. But at the same time, I wouldn't mind seeing something new here and there, like I just said. Just as long as they do it right, just as long as they do a good job, not half-ass it. Then yeah, I'll take just about anything.
All right.
I'm being
Moira.
very open this evening.
More, Mora, I'm sorry, I keep saying Moira from the novels. Mara.
Oh, yeah.
F-14, that's what I meant to say.
I would mind an updated version of the original Max, just modernize it like we keep saying. Definitely the F-14 is iconic for Robotech, so I would want to still see that. So yeah, just modernize the Max.
All right. Modernize Nova Satori's armor, or keep it as is?
Yeah, not so much that, so yeah.
Okay. I mentioned because you love her, so.
I love Nova,
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
Jim.
This is a weird one for me. I'm a Robotech fan. I'm also a BattleTech fan, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with that.
I am.
That decades-long court
Good
battle.
example.
Although I do know that recently the unseen mechs in BattleTech, where the ones from the Macross saga are now re-seen because that whole thing got settled. So it's possible that we could see the old designs again based on whatever changed there. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not going to pretend to be one, but it might be possible. I do think I don't want to see the F-14s redone. And listen, I love it too. I played the RPG back in the 90s with Skull One on the cover, and we all love it. But I think we're past that point.
Palladium Books.
Yes, Palladium Books.
Yep.
And I live not far from their headquarters. So, but I did like was it Cole Price was his name? The new designs. If you don't want to go with an F-22, I know somebody mentioned some logistical problems with that. That's fine. I'd like to see that updated. I'd like to see a lot of the old Destroids brought back in as close to the original form as possible. Because I think with that, or if you were to go with the later generation, like the F-14's iconic. Talk about Logan and Ajax, a hover tank, an Alpha, a Beta, any of the Cyclones. None of those have actually existed. And it's kind of like I was mentioning earlier with don't bring your numbers. You don't, with a hover tank, I mean, that doesn't look like anything the average person who's never seen BattleTech would recognize. And so I think you've got a little more kind of leeway to go with the original design with that because it's original in a way. But yeah, as far as the one major change I think I would make would be to get rid of the original F-14 and go with something that doesn't look like it belongs in a 1980s action.
All right. Brian T says, some of my employees, early 20s, watch anime. I've played Robotech for them. They're polite, but ultimately consider it poorly drawn. And the actors you want to cast are unknown to them. They might recognize the face or name, but most of them don't know Hollywood royalty. I don't think most of the people are going to critique the airplane type. They're going to see a fighter transform into a robot. Everyone here wants to see the anime mech look versus the overdone CGI look of, say, the Transformers. Fair enough. Eric.
Yeah, like most other folks, I'd want it to look pretty close to the original. I think most of the mecha really doesn't need an update. Maybe the Veritech, maybe there's little minor tweaks they could make to the Veritech to make it look a little more modern. But otherwise, I'd want it to stay pretty close to the original.
All right. So you'd keep the F-14 design.
Yeah, and maybe they can do some minor tweaks to it, but I think the basic design would still work.
All right, sweet. What we got here next? Lewis, you're up.
All right, I think I'd reskin most of the excuse me, my brain's on the fritz. I'd reskin most of the vehicles, bring them up to a modern look, but I'd replace the Veritech. Because if I remember correctly, now this is secondhand knowledge, but if I remember hearing correctly, that there's an issue with the Veritech toy, that Hasbro owns the rights to the Veritech toy, and they classify it as Jetfire. So I don't think the F-14 will work. I think we're going to have a redesign, because otherwise they're going to have to fight Hasbro on it, is what I'd say.
Oh boy, you may be right.
Yeah.
Hasbro not give up their license easily.
Yeah, and Harmony Gold already tried that route against Hasbro and did not go well for them. So, all right, guys. In terms of the Mac.
Okay. There's not going to be necessarily a popular opinion, but what I wanted to start off with is for the Mac, redesigning the Mac. We don't need to redesign the Mac into fifth generation fighters like an F-22, Su-57 or whatever, or F-35. The look of those planes is for stealth and minimizing, let's say, radar signatures. They're, in fact, as a design, as an airplane design, airframe, they're less maneuverable as dogfighting and for doing the sort of the dogfighting that they do in Robotech. We see them in action rather than dominating from distance. They're not as good as the fourth and 4++ generation fighters, which are things like the Tomcat, like the Sukhoi 27 I mentioned earlier. So if we're using, let's say, the magic, the MacGuffin, whatever of robotechnology and protoculture, I'm sure their let's say the cloaking let's say the cloaking properties could be explained away as part of robotechnology. They don't need. Besides, if we incorporate, let's say, stealth tech that's still visible to human radars nowadays, it's going to be completely visible to the Zentradi, to the Robotech masters, to whoever. So we don't need to get stuck on fifth generation designs. 4++ designs still work. They look better. They are better at dogfighting, and it can be explained away while keeping the original look. As for the sizing, like I said before, I don't necessarily see the VF1 as a direct comparison with the F-14. Yes, it's very similar, but it's similar in the way that a MiG-29, a smaller MiG-29, is similar to an Su-27 airframe. They look similar, but they're different sizes. They're built for different things. The F-14 would have been a large air superiority, let's say, plane, not necessarily a small fighter like an F-16. So sizing differences can be explained away. It's not a F-14. Or maybe it is something closer to it, and then it can stay larger. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm looking. And again, as for licensing, when by keeping, let's say, the F-14 style look, that's why I'd move away to something closer to an Su-35-27 airframe sort of look. It's very similar. It's got sexier curves. Plus, there wouldn't be the problems with licensing with anybody else who's got license over the VF1 as it is. As far as the fighters, that's the way I see it. As far as other mech, Cyclones could be updated somehow, but they still look pretty good as they are. Same with the Alpha fighter, Beta fighter, but the ones that definitely need a redo, in my opinion. I know some of the guys will disagree, is the hover tanks and this and all the Masters generation mecha.
All right.
Everyone in the group is so much smarter than me.
Sam, your choice on the mech.
Well, my choice on the Mac ties into what I said in the previous question, in that if we don't specify the time frame, we will not be beholden to the level of technology of the setting. So if it were up to me, I take the new generation Alpha and work backwards from there. Make the VF1 redesign the VF1 totally into a proto Alpha, taking design cues from the Alpha rather than an F14. Which is one thing that I really hope in any reboot, which is alignment of the aesthetics across the 3 generations of the mecha, the uniforms, everything. So this is one chance to do the alignment, and the VF1 should look like something that would eventually become the Alpha Fighter. If they wanted to, they could take a more modern approach, just how do I put it? Round out the edges. If they want to make it a bit more sleek for the modern audience, I wouldn't be opposed to that. But yeah, that would be the design principle that I would take if we were to do the VF1 and the Macro Saga mecha.
All right, awesome. Were you able to see the Cole Price Veritech earlier? Or yeah.
Yep. I saw it. I do like that because it actually sort of reminds me of a proto Sylphid. The look of it. It could pass as a earlier version of the Masters era Sylphid.
Okay.
Which I like, which I love. So I wouldn't be opposed to a design like that.
All right. Great take. And yeah, I wanted to know what you thought of those because I know you're big on the mech. We've talked about it. So Brian Dawdle, you're up. Sorry, I keep looking at the screen here.
JT, please give me 4 minutes on this because I can qualify my answer, sir. Here's what's up. First, the original Veritex. Yes, as I've mentioned before, you need to have at least an F-14-esque type of ship for that, just for nostalgia's sake. However, I have to put this in bold caps. You cannot have an external gun that the dude holds in his right hand because gravity exists. As soon as they transform, that gun's gonna fall. I don't care what anime rules need apply. You can't grab the gun while you're transforming from Jet to Guardian to Battloid and still somehow have that gun attached to your arm. It's not going to work. So how do you solve this problem? Easy. What you do is, the forearm guards that you have on the original Veritex. You put a Vulcan cannon in them. And with the trainer Veritex, the brown ones, you put a single cannon gun in there. For Rick's Veritech, you either put a rotating gun on one arm or you put a double single cannon on both arms. And then for Roy's officer mech, or even Max, because, well, it's Max, you guys. So double barrel forearm cannons that pop out when they transform, whether it's in Guardian or in Battloid, and just go to town. Can you imagine what Max would do in space or in the air with 2 double forearm cannons just going around, just tagging fools? That would be beautiful. Second, yeah, see, I know, Mara. I know. I think of this stuff. Second, when you are transforming, if you saw Macross Zero, that will give you a good idea of how to transform mecha. And if you guys remember the movie Pacific Rim, Battloids can work. Pacific Rim was a test balloon for Robotech. I don't know if people realize this, but it was because you have Badloid versus Badloid. So you can make it work in Badloid mode in the middle of an urban combat. So it can work. And with Brian, with the hover tanks, it can work. Hover tanks are already perfectly made. You can streamline it and make it more, sleek looking when it's in tank mode. But when it goes to its gladiator mode and has that big old barrel just tagging fools to go into Badloid, you need to put a canopy on it, though. I'm sorry, there needs to be a canopy. It cannot be open air with Dana just sitting there in the sun going, "Yeah, I'm driving." Nuh-uh, because modern tanks don't do that. So you put a canopy on that sucker. That way, if it goes into space, goes on the desert, wherever terrain it is, that piece of mecha doesn't get screwed up or screwed over or anything like that. And then finally,
That's how a lot of. Sorry.
Go, please. What?
I'm sorry, Brian. I didn't mean to interrupt. That's how a lot of hover tank pilots ended up getting killed because they were completely exposed. Their mecha didn't even get destroyed. They were just taken out by pot shots.
Exactly. So you can completely minimize that entirely. And then, of course, last but not least, you have the missiles. In Robotech, you have hard points on the actual wing. That could work for an F-14-esque mecha, but realistically, you're going to probably have to lose the missiles. But if you do the two super pods, the two for the Strike Valkyries that get introduced for Force of Arms, you can put those two pods on there and you can put missiles inside of them like they did in the show. Or put one of them with a gun like they did in Do You Remember Love. I know, JT, you said don't mention Do You Remember Love, but I'm sorry. I would love to see a Strike Valkyrie with Roy or Rick having that gun on one pod, just tagging fools. That would be beautiful to see in live action. So that's how you need to make the mecha. That way you blend at least some monicum of realism in it and still have the fantasy that we all love and enjoy. And I'm going to stop now. Thank you for my rant.
No. I love
Poker's
that.
fate.
Let me clarify. In terms of the Macross stuff, it was more of, oh, let's incorporate Macross Plus, Macross Delta into a Robotech movie. That's the Mac I get. Okay, that part I get. But in terms of, let's take concepts from, the other Macross sequels into Robo, that's the part that I want to avoid. I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just not for this discussion. So I hope that clarifies.
If I may interject just for a moment, John, I'm going to have to bail on this. This has been a great chat, but but normally my girlfriend is usually able to get a ride from work, but I'm going to have to go and pick her up. So sorry.
Oh, no worries, man. Yeah. If you're close by and can make it back on, we might still be here. So.
Oh, I know you will. No, it is close by, but I didn't know if you're going to be letting me back in the chat room, so I will have to leave at least temporarily.
All right, cool. Yeah,
right.
I'm watching it. So.
All right. If I'll be back. If I can come back, I will try to rejoin. All right.
All right, buddy.
Okay.
Thank you as always. All right. So, but Brian, love the takes in terms of especially the cannons you mentioned about, and you got a lot of support in the chat too. So awesome stuff. Jim.
Everybody said everything, so I got nothing. I'll take whatever they give us at this point, honestly.
Okay. Nothing wrong with that. We're all of us are very hungry for a Robotech movie, but I get what you're saying. Anthony.
Sorry, I was having technical difficulties with my sound. Okay, so once again, I'm always on the fence with everything. But I'm gonna double down and say keep everything the same, especially if we do a live action, because if we do a live action, keep the same designs, how awesome would that be to see them in real life? How awesome would it be to see Daedalus and Prometheus, like, in live action, the Daedalus maneuver, this would be wonderful. The Destroids, everything would be wonderful. And I agree partially with what Ian was saying at the time, but I also know for a fact that if you place enough zeros behind the one, licensing is not going to be an issue. If you give them a figure that they're going to enjoy, they're and that's a problem. I feel like I brought it up before that Harmony Gold tends to have. If they would have just slapped a couple zeros behind the one, we would have had the licensing we need. And so I don't think there should be too much alteration to the designs of the mech. Mainly for story aesthetics also. I've heard like the hover tanks, for example, maybe having a canopy. However, I feel that takes away from part of the story because, especially in the Southern Cross, they were not the best put together army, and that reflects in the design of their mecha. They did not think things through. And, the only person that did was forced to comply, which was Rolf Emerson. He was forced to comply. But, this is the narrative behind the Southern Cross is they were not perfect at all. They were not a well-designed or put together army. They started off as a guerrilla force, basically, and just happened to, come into power, and if the RAF would have never have left, where would the army of the Southern Cross be? So the mecha reflects that. So I wouldn't change design because we're going to need a body count. We need the tragedy. We need to see the faults in this story, in the mecha. We need to have that because it shows, how non-put together we are. Or in Macross, it shows the ingenuity of the human machine mixed with the Centrati machine. Force of Arms worked so well. The SDF-1 survived because of unique ingenuity and blendings of culture. So, I say in my dream aesthetic, I would not change anything. And, I really wouldn't. But if we're doing live action, especially, do not change the design because I think it would be an awesome visual to have the original designs that we grew up with, that we loved, that the newbies who did not, watch this growing up or had seen this before, they're going to see this too and be like, my God, that is beautiful, And so, yeah, that's my take on it.
As Fluffy would say, damn. Very nice, sir. Very nice. All right. We have one late attendee coming in. Hopefully they join in. All right. So to close this one out, all I'm going to say, Veritech, A10 Thunderbolt, Cyclone, Kawasaki Ninja, Neon Green. So that's all I'm going to say in terms of it. So
I knew we'd be
friends.
friends.
And you know something, Brian Dottle, it never occurred to me about a canopy. All these years, 40 years, I'm like, now I can't unsee what you put on. So
they
nice.
did have a canopy in one episode of what is it of the
They had it when
Southern
it went
Cross.
into space.
Yes, exactly. They went into space and they did stick a canopy on top of the hover tank when they were driving on one of the motherships of the Robotech Masters. So why not have that for the entire time when they're using it?
If you look at to get into it just for a moment, and I'll keep it short. If you look at the animation and if you look at the designs on paper, it looks like it was just a bolt on and wouldn't survive more than a moment worth of more than one transformation. Let's put it that way, because they didn't show any way, shape, or form that it actually was mechanically sound.
Actually, it didn't. I think it did pop off when they did transform into Battloid.
If you if you look at the animation, it just disappears.
Wow.
It was quite entertaining.
Yep. All right. Got to stretch a little bit. And we have a word from our sponsor.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is not an official broadcast. Repeat, this is not an official broadcast. This is the truth being withheld from you by the United Earth government. This is Deep Signal 1.
I hope the sound is coming through.
Yes.
Now, in our last live event in the after hours session for just the people in the room, I had announced that I was producing a fictional podcast. And its title is Deep Signal 1. Probably about a week or so ago, I finally I showed something like this on the pages Robotech Novels Universe and Robotech Novels, Robotech Stories. And I wanted to give people an update on where we're at. The scripts for all the episodes have been written, and it's 10 episodes total. I finished the final the last of episode 10 on Valentine's Day of all days, the 39th anniversary of the novels being released. So let me just take this out for a moment. I'm really excited for what's to come. It's some of you may know me from my past podcasting days, and I said if I was going to do something another podcast, I would not be talking about Robotech. I would be telling a story in Robotech. So the next couple of months is going to be dedicated to audio production, and then my goal is to get all the episodes recorded so that way I can just put them up week by week, not having to worry about what's going to be that I got to record something. So what I can tell you, the concept of Deep Signal 1, it is a pirate radio station. I got to go back in terms of the background. This podcast takes place after the SDF-1 leaves Earth on its misguided fall to Pluto. And it is a pirate radio station that becomes sort of a pain in the ass for the United Earth government, kind of like a conspiracy theory type of transmission, also uncovering the truths that the UEG is holding back on regarding SDF-1, regarding the Zentradi, and just regarding life in general under the rule of them. So the inspiration from this came from the World War II D-Day radio transmissions. And I figured, hey, why don't we do something with Robotech along those lines? So it's a project I've been working on for, I want to say it's been in notes and in my mind for years, but now it's coming to life. So I will keep you guys updated in terms of anything major. After this, all I'm going to say, it's still in production. And I can't, I don't want to give out all of the story, and I don't want to promise and say, okay, this is the date where we're going to release it. It will be released, and I'm just really looking forward to it. And with what happened over the weekend was, I was like, when I saw that, okay, we're done. The scripts are written, 10 episodes. So I'm glad I could share it with you guys here present tonight. So just look to more news on either RNU or Robotech Stories. But like I said, it's going to be a process, and I will keep you guys updated when anything major happens. So thank you for letting me present you guys that.
Don't mention it.
All right. So let's move on to the to our next question. All right, we talked mech, we talked storyline, we talked timeline.
Ladies and gentlemen.
No. Move beyond that. All right, the characters. You know, you've got your Roy Folkers, you got your Scott Bernards, you got your Marie Crystals, Anatole Leonards, and so when it comes to a movie, whether that be live action or animated, all right, do we give them updated looks? I know in the Titan comics, like the character of Roy Fokker, he no longer had the hairdo that, you see here in both animated and live action. He was just kind of given a regular hairdo. So, update the originals, add new characters here and there, that are still part of the story, but but they're brand new and they can fit in. Or if we're talking about a brand new Robotech, a complete rework, brand new characters that are part of a Robotech feature. All right. I know that probably won't be the popular one here. So, and the big question, physically, in the realm of physics, Rick Hunter's hair is not possible. That hairdo has always bothered me. I know it's iconic. It identifies him, but you just can't. No amount of chemicals can keep that hair up like it is. So if we go forward with a Robotech,
That's a lot of hair gel.
So do we retire the Rick Hunter hairdo? So, all right, Brian, you're up. Brian Denmead.
Look, if you're gonna take Robotech's gonna take place in 1999, then the hairdo's got to go with it. Look, it's one of those things where if you're looking at a movie, I'm okay with the realistic constraints of reality on hair. The uniforms and everything, you know what? They could absolutely pay homage to the uniforms in a realistic portrayal of combat uniforms. So if we're talking about a live action, I think you have to. You can't. The uniforms of the anime are an anime universe where just like Rick's hair, it works there, but it doesn't work in reality. But you can still design a flight suit, a uniform that's reminiscent, that hat tips to the original design from the anime. And as it's already been said, it is two different mediums. Real world, live action, you have to deal with the reality, right? Of what you can and cannot do and what can and cannot be done. Rick's hair. We'll just keep going back to Rick's hair. So if we're going reality, hat tip. Absolutely. You can design with that in mind. If we're going to go animated, which is still my preference would be to go there because of the flexibility and everything that we've already talked about. If we're going to go the anime route, they can still maintain that original concept that of the uniforms that we've seen. Again, modernize them, yeah. But again, you can still do that great hat tip and that great homage to the source material. So that as far as new characters, I mean, look, if you're expanding the storyline, if you have time to plant seeds for future stories that either branch off or companion, then yeah, throw in some characters that are just planting little seeds there for you to take advantage of later on.
Shoulder flares. Yes or
Yeah,
no?
yeah, it's not going to
Okay.
work. Not in reality.
Right.
Love to see it as a if they do a Halloween scene where one of the character, if we're talking about live action, if they do a Halloween scene, they wear a costume like that. That'd be great.
I could do that.
There you go.
So, all right, Jason.
Just go back in time to the 80s and get a young Bono from U2 and bring him back and cast him. Seriously, look up Bono from U2 back in the 80s. He could probably pull it off. I'm not even kidding about that. I saw him. I saw a picture of Bono from like 1984, and he had like the Rick Hunter do going on, or something
80s
similar.
80s hair gel. They lost the secret to that great magic stuff.
Either that or it was Aquanet.
It's called CFCs. They can't use that anymore because it kills the ozone.
Ah, crap.
With that much hair gel, Rick Hunter's hair should be impervious to bullets.
That is true. But as much as I would love to see the hair, we might end up having to lose it, just for all the just for what was mentioned above. Because we might not be able to not even all the Aquanet and hair gel in the world could probably pull that off, especially in modern times. And yes, gravity is also an issue. But yeah, unfortunately, we might have to kill the hairdo just to make the movie work in modern times. As much as I hate to say it.
In sad news today, Robotech filming had to be put on hold because of a short of hair gel.
And he sticks the hair, make him go the way of Supreme Commander Leonard. Bald Rick Hunter.
Yeah, what we don't want to see is too much hair gel, and then somebody ends up like Michael Jackson with their scalp on fire. I think
you took the words
that's
right out of my mouth.
I was thinking the same thing.
I was actually going to you next, Jim. Did you want to add anything to that? In terms of like the characters, let me pose this. In terms of uniforms, would you give a different style of uniforms?
I think I'd update it a bit. Something we've seen a lot of, I think, in more modern science fiction, including, I mean, and I know it's weird thinking it's being more modern, but something like Babylon 5 or the BSG reboot are military uniforms that look like military uniforms. And I think I'd like to see something more along those lines. Also, as far as when they're actually in the mecha, maybe something a little bulkier so it has kind of a spacesuit feel to it. I mean, these guys are going out into space. Could potentially have to eject into the void. It may make sense to have them in something that looks like, just seal the helmet up and float for a minute until they can come and get you. As far as hairdos go, specifically since we're stuck on that, and I was talking about a more military look a minute ago, why not go with the military look? Give these guys some high and tights and something that would be regulation hairdo, and so that they look like soldiers as opposed to Rick Hunter kind of looks like a refugee from a rock video from 1983. And just kind of give it a more realistic type look to it, I guess.
All right. Yeah, that had not occurred to me. They're pretty liberal in terms that, they're pretty free on the on how the hair looks. Brian Trimvilla, before he left us his thoughts on this question. They need to be recognizable. Otherwise, why does Max have blue hair in the books? It's the fashion to dye it. I don't need the full hair, but keep it close. Yeah, I'd agree there. Like a Max Sterling, I'd probably keep I'd keep the hair with him. So, Eric, you're up.
Yeah, I'd want it to be pretty close too. I mean, if you're going to be doing live action, then the hair has to be realistic human hair and not anime hair. But
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, I think it should be pretty close to what we see.
All right. Uniform styles, add any new characters, you know,
No, I
supporting
want to see the
characters.
original uniforms. I think we will, that would be the whole fun of seeing a live action would be to see what it looks like on real people. There's plenty of characters. They're already going to have to juggle plenty of characters, so I don't need
Yeah.
anything new there.
So shoulder flares are in for you.
I maybe like minor, maybe there could be sort of minor updates like that to,
Okay.
basically the same thing.
All right. Geith, what you
Hold
got
up,
for
heads,
me?
I'm wrong.
I think Brian and Eric summed up a lot of my opinions on this pretty well. If it's anime, keep it as close as original, as wild as possible. It's fine. If it's live action, tone it down a bit where necessary. But even if it was to be live action, the hair can be pretty out there. I mean, just look at Cobra Kai with what's his name, Hawk, the Mohawk. I mean, how much how much time in the makeup room did he have to spend to keep that up for every shot he was in? And as far as characters are concerned, again, like Eric said, there's plenty of characters. If we're going to be retelling the story of Robotech as it is, modernized, rebooted. However, there's plenty of characters one can play. If you need a certain character to do something or represents something in some way, there's plenty to play around with and redirect them if necessary. However, if we're adding something new, a new chapter, a new insert into the wider, let's say, timeline, then yeah, there's scope for new characters.
Okay. Okay. Lewis.
I say, like Guy said, if we're going to add new sections, add new characters. But otherwise, we have enough characters. And I say, even if we're going to keep it animated, let's 86 the uniforms and go something more like Star Trek Deep Space Nine style uniforms. It look, I think, a little bit more for a space style anime. Look kind of cool to see those style anime uniforms animated. Is what I'd have to say. And the hair. Get rid of the Rick Connor hair. Give him a regulation haircut. And kind of tone down Max's hair color.
All right, you're back, Ian. Welcome back.
What did I miss?
All right, just I did after the
Hair gel.
question.
You missed hair gel.
I did. You've already seen it, the trailer, the mini teaser for Deep Signal 1. So.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And just want, scripts are done, and I'm in the audio production part.
And John, I know you wanted to do it all yourself, but I'm seriously, man. I also am an aspiring voice actor, and everybody said I've got like a great voice for it. So if you want like a cast member or another cast member or whatever, I'm not asking for money. I would love to do it because it would be working on a Robotech project would be a labor of love for me. So don't be afraid to hit me up if you want like some help on that. Okay.
All right. Yeah.
All right.
Or me,
I don't know how this. I don't know how this audio production, because I'm going through unordered. I'm going to be completely transparent on this, and I was going to do this when I produced it and when I put it out. I'm recording everything,
right,
but I'm changing the tone. I'm changing, here and there so that my voice comes out different.
Cool.
So
yeah,
if I run in, it's gonna be a process. I'll let you know.
all right, yeah, but I can do voices myself, and I can do accents and things like that. So I can do all that without resorting to studio tricks or
Right.
whatever. So
in my case, my voice just is not
Potential cameos.
Yes.
So, all right. So the question was, Ian, characters. Do we have updated originals? Add new characters here and there, or just wipe the slate clean and start with if we're talking about a brand new Robotech? And I know that's not a popular opinion, and most have said tonight no. You got to keep it close to the originals. So if that's the case, brand new characters. If not, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
And do we get rid of the Rick Hunter hairdo? Because I said earlier, in the realms of physics, that hair is not possible.
No.
No amount of gel.
It's not. You could probably get to close to it. There are some actors out there who I think could possibly, who kind of physically somewhat look like Rick Hunter, like that kind of have a similar hair style, but it won't. Yeah, you're never going to get that. And I don't know how close you can pull that off without angering Studio New Ways lawyers or whatever. But yeah, and also I think maybe, except for maybe a cameo from Zor, like some people have been saying here, like have a little prologue thing where Zor comes in to kind of tie him more directly into the overall story and kind of tee him up for like his later appearance if they ever get around to doing an adaptation of the Masters. Then you could do that maybe, but I don't see him doing any characters. In fact, I don't even think when Titan did their Robotech comics, when they did their kind of like remix or whatever, I don't really think they introduced like any new characters in that. They just took the existing ones and kind of spun them off in new directions. So I don't think that you really need to introduce any new characters really for it.
All right, and when it comes to the uniforms, keep them or update them to more like the shoulder flares.
Yeah, I think that the uniforms are kind of cool. I think they're iconic. I mean, I think there's some wiggle room you can do to. I mean, we've seen this happen with Star Trek, where you've seen like the uniforms have changed over time, and they tend to be variations. We saw like what they did, for example, but with how the what they call the Kelvin timeline Star Trek movies, how they kind of updated the uniforms from the original series to make them look a bit more modern. They did the same thing too in Strange New Worlds, where they kind of like updated them so that they weren't a big departure from what we had seen, but they still looked like they fit into a like a new design sensibility. So yeah, I think you could probably do that. I could easily see them working, do re-up or reworking those designs to work in a live action medium or whatever, if that's what they're going for.
All right. I think Sam, you're up.
All right. Uniforms. I think someone mentioned the Battlestar remake. Yeah, that would be a great aesthetic to take, but keep it recognizable. Keep the colors. The aesthetic is there, but keep that red stripe down the middle, white. Those basic design touches to make it instantly recognizable as Robotech. Hair, if it's live action, you have to tone it down. A good example is this upcoming Street Fighter live action movie. I mean, they released the trailer photos. Guile has this giant toilet brush hair of his straight from the game, and half the internet is saying it's silly. In a live action medium, it does look way out there. So hair, tone it down, definitely for live action. New characters, okay. Now, in my ongoing quest to avoid anything to do with Backward Saga, my proposal is to go with the Ben-Hur approach. Just to explain it, Ben-Hur, that Charlton Heston movie, I know is given this title like Ben-Hur, the story of Christ, but it's not really the story of the Jesus Christ, but this character whose own journey, whose own story intersects with that of Jesus. So my proposal is, if you want to avoid the usual criticisms of, oh, Rick isn't acting as he did in the show, Lisa isn't exactly as she was in the show, don't even have them as the main characters. Have a new protagonist, have a new love triangle, whatever. Follow him, and his path intersects with all these characters who can appear as side characters, but you follow this new character who acts as the audience surrogate. That may also be easier to appeal to new audiences. So yeah, that is my extremely controversial take on adding new characters. Yes, add a new character and make him the main character.
Nice. Brian Doddall.
Well, I think most people already said most of it. As for Max's blue hair, I think a blue strip would work. Like just have a strip of his hair be blue. For the aliens, they can go full on wig. You know, Miria can go full green. That could work. Britai, I'm sorry, you guys. Without getting too, existential on people, Britai's black. Deal with it. Give him his afro. So, it doesn't have to be a huge, massive afro. Just give him a nice trimmed Avery Brooks DS9 afro. Or he can go the season 4. He goes bald and give him a goatee. As for Rick, he can have normal hair. So can Roy. I'm not gonna trip. I don't think anyone in here is gonna space out if people don't have the same hair, except like I said, or like Sam was saying, have the homage. Give Mac his blue streak. Even if you did Miria with just a blue streak, I don't think any or a green streak. I mean, I don't think anyone's gonna be upset. However, Max's mecha better be blue and white, or there's gonna be a riot. Roy's mecha's got to be black and yellow with the white, or people are going to riot. Rick has to have the red and black, and that's going to be a riot. And Ben has to have the brown, and he has to have his steak medium rare. So, or people are going to riot. So, I mean, and I do agree with BSG, because let's not get it twisted. There's Battlestar Galactica with the lasers and the pew pew and the bouncing eyes going back and forth with the Cylons. And then you have BSG, aka Battlestar Sexica, because, everyone was banging everyone else in that damn show, but I still loved it. So that flight suit, those that the pilots wore, that's Starbuck and Apollo and Hot Dog and all those guys wore, that was a very beautiful suit. And it's small enough, Jim, so it's not the NASA bulky suit, because that's just too dang big. You can't go into a cockpit with a NASA suit. It's just too big. But with a Battlestar Galactica suit, that worked. That can work. And then they have the little clamp that went over the helmet. I know in Robotech they have the visor that goes all the way down, and somehow we're supposed to believe that oxygen goes through there and they can breathe. But then when they're in atmosphere, it's just a visor, if you notice that. And also the bottom gets connected on the bottom too when they're in space, so you can somehow see that they're in space and they can breathe in space.
The magic
and
of the turtleneck.
yes.
I never got that.
Oh, and also I forgot, you got to have the reflective patches so they can see you in the black of space, and somehow the light of either a star or some light on a piece of mecha can reflect off of your suit, because on BSG everything was gray, so you couldn't see a guy if they were ejected. I still have no idea how they found Apollo in that episode, but that's a diversion. So I digress.
By the way, I'm a Cylon.
Everybody's
Old
a
Spice.
Cylon.
That's how they found them. Old Spice.
Jim, to close us out, as Anthony has left already.
Okay, so costumes pretty much covered. I mean, like Battlestar Galactica, keep that the same. Characters, I could see them combining characters, maybe not adding new characters, but combining them in, taking elements of other characters, and not the major ones, but some of these secondary ones. I could see them combining 2 or 3 characters into one character. I could see that happening. And as to the hair, I would prefer Max and Mira keep their hair colors, but I'm not going to riot over it, especially if they get good actors to play them. I don't really, ultimately it wouldn't bother me personally, but I mean, I would like to see them try to keep the original hair colors at least, if not the shapes.
Right. All right, cool. In the end, as we close this one out, and for me, I can do without the Rick Hunter hairdo. I think Titan hit it right in their retelling of the Macross saga, where they just had normal haircuts, and it wasn't and I think it was Sam that brought it up that in live action, anime hair just does not fit in. So uh so I'm good with just regular haircuts. Yes, keep the color because it is a distinctiveness with the story and those characters. And when it comes to the uniforms, I probably update them a bit. No shoulder flares. I'm not a fan. So we're talking about a movie, talking about Robotech, whether it's Macross, Macross, the Masters, new generation. But there's an opportunity laying right in front of Sony. We've seen the Robotech story in all its presentations, animated, comics, novels, RPGs. But they're still, to me, it's like it's right in front of them. And what about just, I lost you guys here. Hold on. Why not just chuck all of what we've talked about and did it come up?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
it did.
That's a good point, JT.
Yeah,
That's a good
Kentucky
point.
taking.
Say the best for last.
There is more than one Robotech fan out there that is asked, that is pleaded, that has begged, finish the Sentinels.
Yeah.
We've already got the base story. It's been done, like I said, animation, comics, novels, RPGs. We know it back and forth. If we really want to go into new territory for Robotech, you have an unfinished story.
So true.
What say you, Brian?
Oh, dude, that's a good story. That's a good question. Good question. That's so. Here's the thing: if they did Sentinels first, they could absolutely tie tie the completion of Sentinels into go back to the origin of everything. Because now you've seen Sentinels, and you're like, okay, give me the backstory. How did they get there? And that becomes your opening to the original three sagas. So that could work really, really well. I mean, honestly. And the nature of it, because it's an unfinished story, wink, wink, ignore the novels, um, they could take that as a live action and really have, I hate to say it, but a certain level of creative freedom that they wouldn't have with Macross Masters or New Gen. So yeah, absolutely. That's a big old gift waiting to happen right there. I mean, oh, and real quick, in terms of the merging of characters, Stanley Hayes, right?
Can work.
We see that in the comics. Sammy Hayes.
All right, Ian. I see you pondering there.
Me? Well, I mean, I said this before when we were talking about the Sentinels in the last Zoom chat meeting. Um, the thing of it is with that, I don't know if it can be done as a movie. I've said this before. I think that it has to be done animated. And I think that with streaming the way it is now, The environment is perfect for it. And I think you could easily do it as like a 5-season, 10 episodes each story, because like I've said, the story as it was could have used like a few more passes, a few more rewrites, maybe trim it a little bit so that it runs tighter. And I'd love to see like Powerhouse Animation, the same team who did like the Tomb Raider cartoon and Masters of the Universe Revelations and Blood of Zeus. Those guys, they would do a great job with it. Them or Studio Trigger, who did the Cyberpunk Edge Runners anime. I would love to see them take a stab. I think they could do, both of those could do really well with that.
Box Machine.
I'm not too familiar with them, Brian. I've not seen much of their stuff. But
Box Machine's the anime, not an anime. It's animation that they did on, I believe it's Netflix.
oh,
But same concept. Same concept.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean they could easily do that. Sony would do it, but the biggest stumbling block, and I have to be careful here, John, because I know I'm probably is whether or not there's a will at Harmony Gold to do it, and that's all I'll say for now on that, because there doesn't seem to be much in there. But if you'll permit me later on, I will expand on that a little bit, and I will try as much as I can not to bash them for that. But I do have a take on that, if you will allow me. But I'll leave that for later, if for the 60-second blitz roundtable, whatever.
All right, awesome. Jason.
All right, let's see. Sorry, I'm really tired. What was the question again?
Complete the Sentinels instead of doing a Robotech movie of what we already know. Why not do a movie of the Sentinels?
Right. Sorry about that. I'd be down for a movie, but I'd also be down to finish the Sentinels. I mean, come on. They finished it in the books, like you said. Right. They finished it in the books, so why can't we get a full-on animation? Come on, we were supposed to get 65 episodes, if I remember correctly. I'll do a Kickstarter. I'll contribute to a Kickstarter. But come on, let's see the end.
So in lieu of a movie about Robotech that we already know, would you pass that up for a Sentinels movie? I guess that's more like the question.
I would be willing to do that, but I would need actual positive input from the studio. I'm not passing up the movie just so that they could say we're finishing the Sentinels. Guess what? We're actually not finishing the Sentinels. And I'm like, son of a bitch.
I get it.
But if I would be willing to see the end of the Sentinels if it meant passing up the movie, because look, the chances of getting a movie at this point, as much as I hate to say it, are looking pretty dim. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. That's just me, but it's looking dim, as much as I hate to say it.
I know it's a frustrating situation. That's that.
It is.
That's
it really
why,
is.
That's one of the reasons I wanted to do this discussion, to hear your ideas, because at conventions, when they present the movie, it's okay, Sony has it, can't talk about it. I think I've achieved here tonight where a bunch of fans can get here and talk about how they would approach it, what they would like to see. Okay. Obviously, Sony and Harmony Gold have to cater to the thousands of Robotech fans out there. So, but at least listening to some ideas, I've heard some great ideas in terms of the direction that this can go. So,
thousands.
So yeah, and I get the frustration. And again, I do these types of events not to lament what we don't have, but to work with the over 40 years of material that we have. And part of it is this. And again, this has been a night where we've had people from all over, and thank you guys for staying. I know we're a little bit over time, but that you guys have brought forth it's not been a torches and pitchforks type of thing. You guys have brought some great ideas, and I'm welled up with pride to see, you know, my fellow Robotech fans saying, yeah, this is what I want to see, and bringing it out so well. So again, thank you. Jim, you're up.
You know, I don't want to see Sentinels instead of a movie. But hear me out on this, because I think the key to completing the Sentinels in video form, I read the books. There are some things they could edit. I don't know about singing kids and weirdness, but I think the key to getting a Sentinel series completed, which is how I'd like to see it done, is a Robotech movie that hits big, right? The reason Star Trek and Star Wars have like 300 million movies and new series coming out every 5 minutes is because they're huge, right? We all grew up on Luke Skywalker. We all grew up on James Kirk and Jean-Luc Picard. Not a whole lot of people know who Rick Hunter is. And I think the key, if you want to see Sentinels done, is to get a movie done, to let it hit big. And if you can create the interest in the universe to make a series profitable, that's how you complete Sentinels. So no, I don't want to give up a movie to get Sentinels done, but I do want to get Sentinels done the hard way.
Okay. Either way, same result. You know, not go the short way, but rather go the long way, but to get to the Sentinels completed. So I get that. Totally get that. Geith, you're up.
Sorry about that. The chat was coming up, not allowing me to unmute. Look, like Jim said just now, I lean towards not the Sentinels, but at the same time, if it were to be the Sentinels, I do agree with Brian that there's a lot more scope for fixing it or retelling it or change. There's more artistic scope to change things around. And from where I stand, Sentinels was probably the weakest of the Robotech, let's say, sagas or chapters. So I would appreciate, I think, a lot of reworking and rewriting on that. But again, at the same time, I'd have to agree with Ian that Sentinels for me seems like it would work better as a TV series rather than a film.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I stand about this.
All right, awesome. Sam.
All right.
See, I had a feeling you were going to ask about Sentinels. That's why I did not talk about it. So for me, yes. Not only do I want the Sentinels continued, but I would be so bold as to say, have the live-action Robotech movie be Sentinels. Okay, that way, it's pretty much a cleaner slate than having to adapt one of the existing sagas. And my pitch for a Sentinels movie would be Starship Troopers meets Black Hawk Down, but in Tyresia. So imagine you follow Jack Baker. He goes through his training. He's on the SDF-3. They deploy like the Clandatu drop in Starship Troopers. They deploy down to Tyresia. They get their butts kicked by the Invid. Squadrons everywhere. They're scattered throughout the city, so they have to make their way through it, hooking up with the troops on the ground and trying to retake the city from the ground. So that's where the Black Hawk Down element comes in. So yeah, you go with something familiar. All these elements, Starship Troopers, Black Hawk Down, they are familiar tropes for Hollywood, familiar tropes for blockbuster movie audiences. So it's something that they can latch on, and the setting won't be entirely out of left field, because people are used to sci-fi settings. They're used to Avatar and all that. It's a fully sci-fi setting. So I'm thinking that if you latch onto the familiar tropes and present Sentinels as a live action, I believe people can bite. And you have Jack Baker as the focal character, Karen Penn. You want the returning characters? Yeah, Rick Hunter, but he will not be the focus. He'll be mentioned, he'll be glimpsed, but he'll not be the focus. So that would be my pitch for a Sentinel live action movie. And then you end off with just a sequel hook of meeting the actual Sentinels and then revealing that, oh, well, this is not the only world that the Invid has taken, there are more. And the battle continues.
And honestly, if we don't get a theatrical release, it would probably make a good Netflix, Hulu, or HBO Max original.
Yes. And with what you brought up, Sam, that's been my approach with DS1. And part of the FAQ are the traditional Robotech characters going to be part of this, mentioned, but not part of the story. So I can absolutely identify with your stance. Brian, go the Sentinels and forget the movie.
I never believe you're talking about me. Yes, sir. Okay, here's what's up. Like I said, I'm gonna need 4 minutes for this one. Sam, I love you, dog. While that sounds like a really cool premise, here is why junking Robotech and starting with the Sentinels will not work. I give you real life examples. Ask Warner Brothers what happened when they did Justice League. When they did not build the team build and they just went straight to the team up with the big bad. It didn't work. And why didn't they do the Marvel way, which is start with the origin stories of characters, start integrating it into a shared universe, and then you have the Avengers. It was earned. That's why people loved it. I can guarantee you 80% of America was not a Captain America fan before Chris Evans. It took Chris Evans to make Captain America who he was, to make it what it is in the MCU. Translate that to Sentinels. As soon as you even remotely mention Admiral Hunter, the lay people, because remember, it is not just a movie for us Robotech fans and us protoculture geeks and protoculture addicts. It is for the masses. As soon as you say, who's Admiral Hunter, or there's a possession Admiral Hunter, they're going to say, who's Admiral Hunter? As soon as you say SDF 3, some brilliant person is going to say, well, what happened to the SDF 1 and the SDF 2? Now we have an SDF 3? What is that? As soon as you put talking teddy bears onto the screen and say, we're part of the enterprise, people are going to freak out and wonder, WTF is this? So as much as the Sentinels is a cool storyline, and your idea, Sam, I'm not poo-pooing it. That is a great idea. It is not earned to junk all of the prerequisite and start in the middle. But Lancer, what about Star Wars? Star Wars didn't exist, which is why they started with Star Wars. 2 years later, Lucas said, oh, by the way, this is episode 4. We're starting in the middle of the story and then finishing that before we go to the prequels. We're not going to talk about the sequels because I do not want to have this internet and stuff blow up. But anyway, you need to earn what it is that you want to show. Robotech is earned. That's why you start it with the beginning and you tease them with Zor, which is what all of you have been hinting at, which is brilliant. You hint what Zor is. You hint what the Invid is. And then you build the characters. You get them in love with Roy Fokker so that when he dies, it is the gut punch that all of us felt back in 1985. And I'm sorry, all of us are grown men here. We cried our asses off when Roy died. I still cry to this day, and I have told Dan Warren to his face, dude, every time I watch Farewell, Big Brother, I cry because you are one of my favorite characters. We all cried when Optimus Prime died. It was earned. We need to have that ownership. We need to have that agency, which is why the story of Robotech needs to be told on the live screen so that when you finally eventually do the Sentinels in 10, 15 years, it is earned. Rant over.
Very well said,
put, sir.
Brian.
Very
Brian, we
well
love you
put.
3000.
There's a game called Black Hawk Down, Delta Force Black Hawk Down, and the voice of the player you play is Dan Warren. So every time I get killed, I feel like I've killed Roy Fokker all over again. So if I ever meet Dan Warren, I'm going to say, I'm not going to say Robotech. I loved you in Delta Force. So Jim, finish us off.
So, I mean, I'm pretty much of the opinion that I'd rather just see it as part of a larger storyline than finish it. But, I mean, I'd like to see him finish it, but I'd like to see it as part of the larger story. I'd like to see the whole thing. That's where I'm at with it.
Okay. Start with the movies and then end result, Sentinels. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, some interesting takes here with it's there for Sony to take and do, but do I see it happening myself? I don't think so. I think they want to stay and stick with the main story, however they want to approach it. And I would love to see Sentinels finished in animated form. Will it happen? At the end of the actual footage, that's the official footage for Sentinels that's out there, they ended the story with scrolling text. And so I don't see the Sentinels being part of any future production, but that's just me. So, all right. So 2 lightning round questions, and then I'll give you your 60 seconds of chaos to finish this out. All right. It's a yes or no question. Opio Minucci's Robotech theme must be in a Robotech movie. Legit or shiznit? Yes or no? But it's either legit or shiznit. Brian.
Absolutely legit.
Got it. Ian.
Yes.
No. What's yes in this?
Oh, yes, it's iconic.
Legit.
It's legit. Yeah, it's legit.
Legit.
Sorry. I didn't know you needed the specific word, but yes. Legit.
I'm trying to make it a thing on the
Got it.
on the pages with the polls. So
too legit to quit.
Jason, legit or shiznit?
Legit.
Got it. Jim.
Legit.
Geith.
Legit, and I'd bring back the narrator as well.
Okay.
Oh yes.
Sam.
Yep, legit.
Brian. Donald.
Hells yes, legit, but unfortunately, Guy, the original narrator, has passed.
That's what AI is for.
I'm sure another voice actor can do a good impression.
Yeah, why not? AI. He's the sound of Robotech. He brings a lot to it. Or somebody could do something similar.
It was
That's
JJ
a missed
Smith,
question,
right?
John.
Jim.
Legit.
All right. First one where we all agree on the same answer. Cool. All right. And this one's going to be a lightning round for this question. So however the production is done, if you can only choose one in the direction that this is going to go, theatrical movie or stream series? It's
Series.
just those 2 choices. Brian?
Stream series. Stream.
All right. Ian?
I guess I'll go with stream series on this.
Okay. Jason?
I'd be open to both, but put a gun to my head, make me choose. I can only pick one. I'm going with stream series.
Jim?
I'm gonna go with stream series too, I think.
Okay. Geith?
I'm in two minds, different factors. I'll go with film just for the sake for it to be a spectacle, but I'm in two minds.
Okay. Sam?
I'd go movie, theatrical, go big or go home.
All right. Brian D2?
Okay, we're talking about the original 85. That's what we've just been talking about.
Whatever Sony
clarify.
comes up with, whatever Sony decides in whatever direction they want to go. Do you want it as at the movie theater or you want to watch it on Netflix?
See, it doesn't. Okay, here's
Or
why I'm
culture and
waffling.
chill, or popcorn and
Here's why I'm waffling. If we're doing a reboot, yes, it needs to be a series streaming. If we're doing a live action, go big or go home. I agree with Sam. Put it on the big screen.
All right, fair enough. And Jim?
I said it before. I mean, I would take streaming, but I want streaming to lead into the big movie, the end of the circle. That should be the movie. Have all the streaming lead into that, and then have the finale be the movie.
Wow, that you threw a curveball to me there. Very nice. All right, me, I don't know. I think with the series, you can stretch the stream series. You can stretch the story out. I think you'll get more out of it.
Yeah, good point.
So
John,
you'll get
could
more
I just
story.
qualify?
Sure.
Could I just
Go ahead.
qualify the answer just briefly?
Sure.
I said I was in two minds. Let's say, roughly speaking, if it's anime series, if it's live action, go with film. That's the way.
All right.
Yeah.
All
Good
right.
answer.
So, all right. It's been at this for what, almost 3 hours. All right. Here comes the 60 minutes. I said chaos earlier. I put 60 minutes of mayhem on the side. I'm going to give you 60 seconds on your thoughts on the Robotech franchise right now, and be honest. Try not to be profane, but like I said at the beginning of this live event, I'm going to tag robotech.com and encourage them to watch this event and hear the fans out. And I know we've been sticking to the subject of the movie, but I want your thoughts on how you feel about the franchise currently. So, Brian, go for it.
Okay, I'm very politely. The RPG system is the lifeblood of the franchise right now. What Strange Machines has been doing with the Robotech universe has been amazing. And I'm going to reiterate, if you weren't in on that little after hours party where we got to see all the behind the scenes, oh boy, did you miss a lot to be excited about. That said, Remedy Gold, I hear crickets. I'm tired of the same toy over and over again. I don't need 67 different models painted of the same Veritech. You can't give me just Macross and not give me Masters. And you can't just give me Masters without giving me Sentinels and Mospedia, the New Gen. You got to give it all. You can't give me just piece of it. And all I'm getting from Harmony Gold is, do you like this VF1 repaint? As opposed to Strange Machines is like, guys, check out this universe. A big difference. Yeah, can I interest you in a slightly used hover tank?
All
That's my
right,
rant. I'm done.
Ian.
Okay, I might be like Brian Dowdell. I might need more than a minute here, but I'll try to make it as concise as I can. Loath as I am to say this, because I don't like the idea of we're at a time where companies are entertainment companies are buying up other entertainment companies and IPs. And I think at this point, I think I would like to see, as much as I hate the idea of of this happening, the best thing to happen for Robotech, I think, would be for Sony to just buy the IP outright, because it sounds like they want to do something with it, and Harmony Gold just is not interested. I think Robotech would be better served in the hands of a company that believes in it and wants to do something with it. A similar thing happened with Star Trek. I don't know how many people know this, but like during the
Yes.
years between the time of Enterprise and Discovery, the guy in charge of CBS, who at the time had Star Trek, was Les Moonves. He hated Star Trek. At the same time, he understood that it was a nostalgia property that he could make money off of. And so they continue to sell Star Trek related merchandise as nostalgia, as a nostalgia brand, while Moonves would take those profits and funnel them to other projects that he liked. And it wasn't until like maybe around the time of Discovery and Moonves was on his way out that you saw Star Trek come back. I think this Harmony Gold is the same way. I don't think they're interested in doing anything with Robotech beyond selling nostalgia merch. And the only way we're ever going to get any new content is if it were, again, in the hands of another company like Sony who bought the IP. That's my hot take on it. My apologies, John, if I broke the rules there.
No, no. You're fine.
Okay.
You're
You're
fine.
right on the money, dude. That is a
That's what.
20
That's
something
why
year
I waited. That's why I waited
statement.
until the end. That's why I
Okay.
waited till the end to do
Thank you.
this.
But
So,
yeah, I think that it would be, as much as I hate seeing companies buying other companies and stuff like that, or buying IP rights to other properties, I think Robotech would be in better hands of somebody else, anybody else.
all right.
Ian, that is a 20-year statement of truth.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Thank you, sir, and well put. Jason.
All right, let's see if I can do this in 60 seconds. I know this is very unlikely, but I would like to share it with you nonetheless.
Go ahead.
Scene: Los Angeles, California. Harmony Gold offices, 9 a.m. Monday. Jason Stefani walks into Johanna Grama's office, takes out a suitcase, and dumps a crap ton of money on the desk. The next scene shows that same Jason Stefani walking into the boardroom during a meeting. He goes up to the whiteboard, takes an expo marker, writes something on it. He flips the whiteboard over, and it is revealed to read, "You're all fired."
Works for me.
Jason turns to one of the people and says, "No, wait. You can stay. I'm keeping you as an assistant. I need you to get these people on the phone." A few choice names are there: Tony Oliver, Cam Clark, Richard Epcar, Dan Warren. I could go on, but like I said, I only have 60 seconds. What happens next? I don't know. The theme from the Jeffersons starts playing, I guess, because we're moving on up, moving on up.
Since I believe in the concept of multiverses,
Yes,
there
Melanie
is a
McQueen and Rebecca
universe where
Forster.
that happens, Jason. Take solace in that.
And as selfish as this sounds, I'm probably going to end up giving myself the role of Roy Hunter. Unless maybe
Dude, it's your world. You're allowed, babe.
Hey,
unless maybe
there's a
Ian James
universe out
Corlett
there
wants
where
to do
you
it.
are Roy Hunter.
Unless Ian James Corlett wants to do it. Have you guys heard of him?
Nah.
I think he was the voice of Goku before Sean Schemmel took over. But he's Canadian, so I'd probably have to go up north to see if he'd be interested.
All right. Jim, final thoughts on the franchise.
Hey, I'm going to put this out there because I was hoping I'd get a chance to mention this tonight. I think the absolute most important thing, if they want to do a new Robotech, especially if it's live action, is to understand that they need to spend more time on the story than they do on the special effects. I don't know
I
if you
agree.
saw The Flash, but it was beautiful. But the story sounded like it was written by a ninth grader in a creative writing class. Okay. We need something. We need a good story over and above all. I mean, yes, the mecha are nice and the hairdos and the uniforms, whatever. But dude, above all, get a good script, make the story work, and the rest of it's just window dressing.
Jim, you're hired.
Thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
thank you, Jim, for being part of this tonight.
Jim,
I
we
hope to
love
see you at
E3000 as well.
future events.
Yeah, I'll be
Guys,
back.
60 seconds.
60 seconds. All right. Look, whichever way they go, animation, live action, I think it should have, let's say, the heart and soul of or flavor of what makes Robotech, and that includes some of the goofiness which don't come through in some of the comics and don't seem to come through in the novels. I think that kind of gives
Like a
it
good
something, it
steak.
adds something to it. I'd like to see let's say the Japanese anime DNA roots still there somehow in the way it feels. The other thing that I'd comment is a last comment is I wanted to stay away from culture war things, issues. I wouldn't want to see either, let's say, a Top Gun sort of scenario or let's say 2016 Ghostbusters, maybe something like
Oh, you
I don't know,
went there. Oh,
the Beverly Hills Cop 4, Cobra Kai, something like that, that managed to walk a middle ground without having to go into that sort of thing too much.
All right. Awesome. Sam.
State of the franchise. Well, disappointed in a way because I really expect something bigger, especially for the anniversary from Harmony Gold. You see all these old franchises, He-Man, Transformers, either going strong or experiencing a resurgence in interest. Voltron, definitely. That's my favorite example to compare to Robotech since they came about in a similar manner. Unrelated shows combined together with a whole new story. But at the same time, I am grateful for the little things we get, grateful for the ones who are making it. Strange Machine Games with the RPG. Love the book. I don't play RPG. I just read it for the information and the art. Kids Concept. I just got their Kickstarter figures. Very good figures. And I love them. So yeah, disappointed when it comes to Harmony Gold, but grateful for the guys who are actually making stuff, no matter how small they are.
You're like me. Let's work with what we've got and have fun with it. So, Brian, and I know I know you're a long time Robotech fan. So, all right, you get your 60 seconds of mayhem.
This is how serious I am. I am turning on my video and my mic. Most people know me as Lancer. Most people know me as the Robotech Guru. And most people know me, I'm the Robotech Optimist. It has been 2007 when we first heard that Robotech was going to be a live-action movie. And Warner Brothers was at the helm. The whole Robotech community went nuts. It has been 20 years. And I am not as optimistic anymore that this will be achieved. Masters of the Universe has been rebooted 4 times. Speed Racer once. Voltron 3 times. Thundercats twice.
Stacking comics.
I'm not even talking comics. I'm
They're
just talking
relaunching
about
the
in the
comics.
animated
Agreed.
world.
Yeah. True.
We have seen reboots of 80s cartoons. Hell, the Smurfs have 4 fracking movies out already. And this beloved franchise, granted, it was in a rights war, but that war is over. It is now in development hell. It has been 4 different directors that I know of. I don't know how many rewrites since. I don't like to poo-poo Harmony Gold, and I don't put this all on them. I don't want to poo-poo the people who own the rights now. But the ship is soon going to be over the horizon, and I'm already 50 plus years old. And as much as I would love to see a live action movie, I am very pessimistic now that it will ever happen in my lifetime. And that makes me sad, because this franchise that I have literally given my entire adult life to as a convention goer, giver, as a person who's been on videos, as a person who has met almost all of the voice actors and authors of this beloved franchise that we love. And am a huge anime fan because of Robotech. It hurts my heart that this beloved franchise cannot get off the ground and get out of its own way. So I don't want to see an academy. I don't want to see another toy. I don't want to see a skateboard. I want to see this on the big screen where a new generation can enjoy and love, and people all over can say, this is fracking awesome. But unfortunately, that may not be. And that really, truly hurts me. Rant done.
You forgot Matchbox Car. Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Oh, okay. Jim.
Well said, man.
Very well said, Brian. And
You're
Jim.
here on that.
Okay, so this is more of a what I want from the franchise rather than the state of the franchise, because I think we know the state of the franchise at this point.
Okay.
What I want, first of all, Harmony Gold sell to Sony or somebody. I agree with that. I also want, thinking about it, I wanted something from the books, but now I think about it, why don't you add stuff from the comics? Take stuff from all the media, the RPGs, take elements from it, create a live action series that leads into the final movie. That's ultimately what I want. Also, cast Michael Fassbender as Britai. That's it. And that's it.
All right. So I'm going to close it out by saying 40 years that this franchise has been in existence. It has seen better days. I'm not going to deny it. I agree that right now, the greatest advance forward for this franchise has been Strange Machine Games with their Robotech RPG. And I hope to have Justin and the guys from SMG on again for another live event where hopefully we can do another after hours event to see how far, because the guys that were part, including myself, that were part of the after hours event, they're taking Robotech into places it has never been, but you get that feel with you got the feeling that it is Robotech. It's stuff that you've never seen before, and
There's energy.
it's an energy that I hope goes through to other aspects of the franchise. When it comes to Harmony Gold, been there, done that. I maybe it is time for someone to have, instead of using Robotech as a cash cow. And by that, now that I've said that, I don't even know if I'm going to tag them for this, but I think what, the people gathered here tonight throughout these past 3 hours and through the groups, through the pages, I think most of us want to see Robotech succeed. We want to see good things. Okay. And the same magic that Strange Machine Games has, you can have it with, you know, Titan Books reissuing the novels and really pumping that. An updated website. God, you know, we were just talking about that the other day. I did not know that the Robotech forums are no longer existent, but in the current state that they were, it was better.
Good
But
riddance.
but yeah, and tonight has been a really great night, and I appreciate all you guys that have stayed till the end. To everybody that attended, to everybody that watched us live, and everybody that will watch us on YouTube, this is what our live events are about. People getting to talk. For the most part, we tend to agree on nothing or very little, if that. But I'm so glad that
We
that
all
we can
agree on
get
Robotech.
together like this. That we can get together like this and be able to, you know, have some fun. And the Robotech fandom is indeed a passionate one, and the ideas put forth through this, you know, it's amazing. And I'm glad that I'm glad tonight happened. So what more can I say, man? Thank you. I'm looking forward to the times ahead with Deep Signal 1. The pages, Robotech Novels Universe and Robotech Stories are growing. And let's just have some fun, man. Let's just I know it's a rough time for the franchise, but you know something? Let's put that to the side and continue what we're doing at in the communities that we've created. So again, I'll make sure that I put up the rest of Cole Price's art in this coming week up on Robotech Stories. I'm going to post the questions to the rest of the groups to see how they answer. It would be very interesting to see how they answer. And then we just keep moving forward, having fun. So thank you all who are still here. And I think I'm going to go have a drink. So until the
earned it.
next time we meet
We all have.
together,
Have
much
one for me.
love, kick ass, stay humble. We'll talk to you soon.
Good night. Thank you all. John, awesome job, man.